Chapter 225 Ambush. Chapter 225 Ambush. Inside the broken palace, Shiryan and Yang Mu's group were quietly waiting for something with serious faces. This time, the time that Jiang Huchuan spent inside the meteor array was longer than before. While Panjin, Chao Jilan, and the others have been approaching closer and closer, everyone was quite anxious because their retreat path hasn't been confirmed. Yang Ku with his knitted eyebrows kept walking around, regularly looking at the thick gray clouds area where Jiang Huchuan had entered. Li Fenger stood on the broken pillar. Her body was slender and soft, her eyelashes were long and prominent on her face. She slightly shouted, "Nearly 100 Earth Realm warriors. This force isn't just double stronger than us." Chao Jilan and Xiekue have also joined this time, as well as He Qingman. Those are tough characters. It looks like we got some troubles. Chao Jilan. Yang Mu's face looked heavy. This woman was the high-class warrior from the young generation of the Chao family. Rumor said that she has an extraordinary strength, ranked 3rd in the combat list, 1 rank higher than me. I haven't fought with her yet, so I didn't know how her real ability is. However, since she was ranked 3rd, her ability mustn't be weak. Yang Mu thought for a moment and then suddenly said, "If the situation turns bad, regardless of whether Uncle Jiang has come out or not, we must enter that meteor array." Yang Shue's beautiful face slightly changed. She couldn't help but exclaim, "If that meteor array isn't broken yet, I'm afraid we will suffer a great loss if we enter it." You guys also have seen that even Uncle Jiang, who has a deep knowledge of array, was stuck in there. If we enter there, we definitely will be worse than Uncle Jiang. Li Fenger, Yang Ke, and the others also looked somber. They all looked at Yang Mu. The meteor array is dangerous for us, but it is also the barrier that deters Panja and Chao Jilan. They are more than us, so if they keep chasing us, their loss will be certainly bigger than ours. Yang Mu said calmly. So, regardless of whether Uncle Jiang can come out or not, we still need to enter it. Shiryan. Yang Shue's face was confused. Do you think Uncle Jiang will be fine? Of course, Shiryan shook his head. If Uncle Jiang understands that meteor array, he definitely can break it. I believe the message that I have given him is correct. Gently nodding her head, Yang Shue, still dubious, sadly said, "I hope so." It was not that she didn't believe in Shiryan, but this time, Jiang Huchuan had entered for a long time and still hadn't come out yet. In their mind, Jiang Huchuan could have probably encountered some danger. They subconsciously thought that Jiang Huchuan had died inside the meteor array. Even Yang Mu had said that once the situation got bad, regardless of whether Jiang Huchuan came out or not, they still needed to enter the meteor array. It proved that he didn't have too much confidence. They will arrive here soon. Li Fenger raised her head looking up for a while. I think we should prepare first. By using the terrain here, we can ambush them, and maybe we can kill some of them. Li Fenger gritted her teeth, her eyes shot out a cold beam of light. She looked like she was ready to fight. Shiryan secretly nodded and then quietly urged the power inside his body to form gravitational field without saying anything. Yang Mu, Yang Ke, Yang Shui began to command the other warriors to split up and temporarily hid inside the palaces. As soon as the enemies arrived, they would signal their warriors to take action. Master Yan, what should we do? Kama asked respectfully. Kama was in the 3rd sky of the Earth Realm and belonged to Shiryan's team. His cultivation base was the highest. He was 2 meters tall with a sturdy body. His strength was very superior because had trained the Shura blood guard of Shura King Li Mu. You guys hide inside the palaces first. Don't need to prepare anything, just seize the opportunity to kill the enemies when facing them. Shiryan's face became solemn. Just focus, you only have fleeting chances. I will give you guys the opportunity to kill them in 1 blow, so you guys must seize that chance. Understood, Master Yan. Kama's face was convulsive. Previously, in the battle on the Silver Horn ships, Kama had seen Shiryan's miraculous ability. He knew that Shiryan could quietly release mysterious martial technique that could affect the entire battle and also could constrain the enemy's movements so that the others have the chance to kill the enemies. Therefore, Although Shiryen only had the cultivation of the disaster realm, Kama and the others still had little respect for him and didn't look down on him. Oh! Shiryen slightly shouted and looked toward the thick gray clouds area. His soul consciousness sensed some anomalies from there. In the area that Jiang Huchuan had entered before, the energy flow was very chaotic at the beginning, but it seemed to become restful all of a sudden. The energy inside seemed to turn into a long river, slowly flowing in a special current as if someone had repaired the mess inside the energy, restoring their order. Jiang Huchuan. Shiryan's mind was slightly agitated. He immediately realized that Jiang Huchuan had probably succeeded in breaking the meteor array and changing the energy flow inside the meteor array. Uncle Jiang is going to come back. Shiryan revealed a faint smile and slightly shouted. What? Li Feng'er was still standing above him, looking at Shiryan below. Are you a prophet now? Shiryan smiled and shook his head, looking up toward Li Feng'er and said, I am not a prophet, but I can vaguely sense his presence. I have a magical treasure that can help my spirit insight become sensitive. Little Yen, Uncle Jiang has succeeded? Young Mu overjoyed, the enemies will come here soon. If Uncle Jiang has succeeded, we will have a greater advantage. Yeah, he will come out soon. Shiryan nodded. As soon as he had finished his word, a body covered with dust suddenly ran out. Jiang Huchuan's face was full of dust, but he was very energetic. He excitedly looked toward Shiryan and happily said, The message that Master Yan has given me is indeed true. Thanks to Master Yan's knowledge of the ancient text, I could break the meteor array. Yang Ke, Li Feng'er, Yang Shui, and the others were very surprised when they heard Jiang Huchuan's words. They all looked at Shiryan with a meaningful look in their eyes. Kama and the other warriors who had been assigned to Shiryan's team was very excited and had more confidence in Shiryan now. After we enter into the meteor array, remember to take 7 steps on the left path first, and then take 5 steps on the right path, and then take the left path and repeat the steps again. Remember, 7 steps to the left, 5 steps to the right. Don't forget it. If you follow this, the meteorite will not hit you guys. Jiang Huchuan grinned. If the enemies dare to enter it, I believe that they won't be able to figure this out and definitely will suffer a great loss. That's the best. Yang Mu laughed comfortably. Let's prepare first. We will ambush them and kill some of them first. If the situation changes, we will immediately retreat into the meteor array. This time we are lucky to have Uncle Jing's and Little Yan's help. Otherwise, we undoubtedly will face a big problem. Ha ha. Now we have the advantage, and we should make those pursuers taste the defeat. Those are 9 broken palaces. Pan just stopped all of a sudden. He stood on a solid stone, looking at the distance. I have gone through those 9 palaces over there before. All of the ancient arrays inside there have been broken, so there is no danger. However, behind the 9 palaces, there are still many forbidances and barriers, so it all depends on luck when we want to pass through it. Those Yang's people maybe have left from there? Gu Linglong frowned. I don't know. Pan just shook his head. Just be careful. There are many hiding places inside those 9 palaces. If the Yang's people stay hidden there, it will be tough for us. Even we have more people, we still can't let our guard down. Remember, don't act recklessly. The gray clouds behind the 9 palaces are very thick. Thus, our sight dropped greatly, and many forbidances blocked our spirit power as well. Over there was the real chasm battlefield. Yang's people are inside the palaces. Chao Jilan dashed forward, passing Panja like a feather drifting forward. Her slender body was swaying and swinging as if it was weightless, giving people a strange feeling. Follow up, just be careful. Shiryan that you guys have mentioned has formed strange confining vortexes inside the palaces. Those vortexes also keep shaking. Yeah, you guys will tell me who is Shiryan later. I will deal with him first to prevent him from playing tricks with you and creating a chance for the Yang people to kill you guys. Chao Jilan was like a floating feather. Her body moved in the air randomly, leaping up from the ground from time to time, which made her movement turn into a blurred shadow that seems very slow, but in fact, it was dashing incredibly fast toward the palace. Miss Chow, your spirit god martial spirit can detect any energy flow and also know that energy's movement rule, and thus it enables you to find a way to deal with it. This spirit god martial spirit is a sacred rank martial spirit. It can even sense the tiny weakness of the opponent's martial technique. It is genuinely magical. So, just follow her words. The saintess from the Heaven Lake Divine Land, Chuyangqing, displayed a strange emotion in her beautiful eyes as she explained Chao Jilan's miraculous martial spirit. Chao Jilan's martial spirit was very mysterious. Many warriors from the Endless Sea have heard about this. However, only a few people knew the magical effect and the strength of her martial spirit. Xu Yaqing was one of the few of them. Panja, Siekue, Guling Long eyes were shining after hearing Chuyangqing's words. Chao Jilan's spirit god martial spirit can detect any energy flow and even can know the movement rule from that energy. This means that the forbidances and barriers inside the chasm battlefield couldn't escape from the martial spirit's detection. She could even find the way to break those obstacles. Inside the chasm battlefield, Chao Jilan's spirit god martial spirit was apparently very useful. It could help them significantly reduce their loss. Don't hide anymore. Just come out and fight with us. Outside the palace, Chao Jilan calmly walked inside with a smile on her face. Her slender body could easily avoid 3 moving gravitational fields. She shook her head and revealed a smile. Yeah, these active traps are very magical. No wonder why Panja and the others had to suffer a great loss. Sure Yen, right? You have surprised me by making those traps. Can you show up, please? Sure Yen was hiding behind a stone pillar, his face slightly changed. He coldly harumphed and walked out step by step with a dark face. He appeared from the stone pillar where he had been hiding. Watching this beautiful woman who breaks his gravitational field and hearing her praise made him become focused and cautious without daring to let down his guard even a bit. He could feel that he was the target of this woman. Chapter 226, You Guys Go First. Chapter 226, You Guys Go First. Chao Jilan quietly stood outside of the palace. She didn't rush to enter, but instead she smilingly looked towards Shi Yan, who poked his head out from behind the stone pillar. The look in her eyes was somewhat shady. Panja and the rest saw that Chao Jilan was already here. They didn't dare to delay, and all sped up their pace, quickly appearing behind her. Almost 100 Earth Realm warriors lined up neatly and stood behind Panja, Gu Linglong, Xia Kue, and Qu Yanqing. They coldly watched the rubbled palaces as if waiting for something. Did they hide because they want to make a sneak attack? Chao Jilan chuckled and shook her head, her thin hands slightly raised up, and beams of blue light flew out of her 5 delicate fingers, attacking the Yang family warriors that hid inside the rubbled palace. Yang Mu and the rest that hid in the dark seemed surprised. Under the attack of the bright blue lights, they had to move out of their hiding spots, and all revealed their whereabouts. Shi Yan's expression slightly shifted. This gorgeous woman was even harder to deal with than Nirvana Realm warriors. Inside the Abyss battlefield, mind power was restrained, and even vision was greatly affected. Inside the Abyss battlefield, even Nirvana Realm warriors have a hard time picturing the life force fluctuations around them. But this woman was still 50 meters away from the palace. However, she seemed to have the all-seeing eye and pointed out all the Yang family warriors that were hiding. With her soul power, she broke the sneak attack plan of Shi Yan and the rest. You don't need to hide, there's no point, I know your exact spots. Chao Jilan smiled. She kept waving her hand and shot out more bright lights, forcing the Yang family warriors to shift and appear in plain sight. Panja smiled casually. He stepped forward and stood beside Chao Jilan. He nodded towards Yang Mu from a short distance. We meet again so soon. Hee. This time you can't use demon beasts to block us. I wonder if you can still escape from this. I think I remember that the ones who fled in panic last time were not us? Yang Mu seemed stunned. He scratched his head and looked towards Yang Ku. I'm not wrong, am I? It wasn't us who jumped into the sea. Yang Ku chuckled coldly. Big brother, you might have remembered wrong. Some people seem to think that they won before. When facing enemies twice their amount, Yang Mu and Yang Ku were not startled at all. They still had the leisure to mock Panja, as if they didn't take this crisis seriously. Panja, Qianqing, and Gu Linglong immediately darkened their expressions. The ones that should come out are all out now. Isn't this great? Chao Zhilan smiled. She turned back, glimpsed at Panja and the rest, then said confidently, "You can go inside to complete the objective of this mission now. Don't worry, there won't be any messy traps for you to deal with." Then, Chao Zhilan suddenly whistled. The crisp whistle spread far and loud. On the sound of the whistle, her delicate body was like a lightning flash that shot straight towards Shiryen. At the same time, rings of blue aura flew out of her body. These blue auras were like hula hoops, quickly flying inside the palace, with the intention of going towards the gravitational fields that Shiryen made. Inside the blue auras, there was a flow of extremely obvious soul fluctuation. Inside every blue aura, there seemed to have Chao Zhilan's mind power. Once these blue auras fell inside the gravitational fields, they immediately rippled with bright blue light, and the blue light instantly filled the entire gravitational field. The gravitational fields that were hard to be seen by the naked eye now appeared in plain sight because of the blue light. When the blue auras fell into the gravitational fields, the bright blue light that it released had no effect on the operation of the gravitational fields. However, the existence of these blue lights marked the placement of the fields, letting Panja and the rest know where the traps were so they could dodge them. Chao Zhilan didn't remind them, but from the location of the blue lights, Panja and the rest clearly saw the traps that were secretly made by Shiryen. The gravitational fields were now useless. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the whistling sounds, Chao Zhilan shot towards Shiryen like lightning. In a mere moment, her delicate body appeared in front of Shiryen. "Sky spirit bound!" Chao Zhilan shouted. A blue light cover formed by vigorous spirit energies suddenly fell on Shiryen's head. The Sky Spirit Bound was a mortal-level martial skill. It uses the natural spirit energies to form a constraint, directly capturing the opponent. As long as the spirit energies remain, the constraint of the Sky Spirit Bound would not disappear. Performing the Sky Spirit Bound while being in the third sky of Earth Realm, Chao Zhilan was confident that even Yang Mu would be bound by her for a while. "It's not that hard." Chao Zhilan chuckled. She looked at Shiryan's figure inside the blue light cover and shook her head, feeling slightly disappointed. "I thought you would have some things up your sleeve, but it seems that you're nothing more than this." "Boring. What are you talking to yourself about?" Shiryen snorted coldly. Chao Zhilan's bright eyes lit up. With some excitement, she looked at Shiryen, who was outside the light cover. Then she immediately looked at the blue light cover, suddenly realizing that the original figure of Shiryen was slowly dissipating and disappearing bit by bit. "Shadow." Chao Zhilan's pretty face smiled more. She nodded. "You kind of have some skills. Didn't get captured by me immediately." Very good, very good. This is more interesting." "Yang Mu, you won't get away." Panja yelled. With the feather fan in his hand, he already started battling with Yang Mu. The Earth Realm warriors that rushed in from outside the palace also quickly sought opponents. They formed into an arc and surrounded the Yang family warriors, moving closer towards them. Yang Mu, Yang Ko, and the rest were dealing with their opponents and quietly backing up at the same time. They moved closer towards the area behind the palace with the thick dark clouds. When Chao Zhilan pointed out their exact spots, Yang Mu already had the thought of retreat. At the moment his figure appeared, he already made hand gestures, signaling everyone to retreat to the area where the meteorite formation was. Li Fenger and the rest all know very well in their hearts. They knew that the situation was not fit for a battle to the death. According to Yang Mu's idea, they all moved closer to that side. "Panja, you weren't worthy of being my opponent then, and it is still the same now." On that side, Yang Mu laughed loudly, with a fearless expression on his face. Surrounded by many warriors, an extremely explosive power was bursting from his body. That giant sword pressed towards them like mountainous waves, forming continuous explosion sounds, beating the hell out of those tight-knit warriors. Yang Mu had the immortal martial spirit. He wasn't scared of being heavily injured at all. He even purposely injured his body just to kill those surrounding attackers. Very soon, there were many wounds on Yang Mu's body. Many of the wounds were so deep that the bone was visible, they seemed extremely severe. At the expense of heavily injuring his body, in this mere moment, Yang Mu had already killed 3 warriors in the first sky of Earth Realm. Plus, this result was under the situation in which he was facing Panja's attacks at the same time. Yang Ke and Yang Shui were about the same as Yang Mu. They relied on their fearlessness of wounds, and when they battled with attackers, they often didn't care about getting injuries on their body. They killed the surrounding attackers at the expense of injuring their own bodies. Shiryan, how are you gonna escape this time? Gu Linglong shouted coldly. A long magic sword flew through the air. This magic sword was in a strange prism shape, with a chilling cold ambience. The look in Shiryan's eyes was calm. He didn't look at the cold magic sword that Gu Linglong shot out. Instead, he gravely stared at Chao Jilan. After one blow from Chao Jilan, she didn't attack again. Instead, she observed the situation in the battlefield with interest. She saw Panja and the rest quietly surround Yang Mu's group, and she saw the Yang family warriors retreat towards that meteorite formation in an orderly manner. The moment when Gu Linglong's ice magic sword attacked, Shiryan immediately guessed her intentions. In the last battle, the aftershock power of the 7 magic swords of Gu Linglong had once rushed into his body. However, they were burnt completely by the fire power of the 10,000-year-old core fire. As the master of the magic sword, Gu Linglong naturally knew that inside Shiryan's body there was a strong firepower. So, this time she didn't shoot out all 7 magic swords. Instead, she concentrated the power in her body and solely controlled this one ice sword with the cold energy, wanting to use the cold energy on this magic sword to suppress the firepower in Shiryan's body. The ice magic sword pierced through the air. Shiryan's expression was cold. He didn't make any actions. When he sensed that bone-chilling cold energy, a chilling grin suddenly appeared on his lips. Boom! Raising his hand, he gathered the negative energies, and a death seal suddenly bursted out. The death seal explosively shot onto the ice magic sword. Negative powers that were several times stronger than the last battle suddenly exploded and actually blew away that cold magic sword into the air. Gu Linglong's delicate body shook, her face suddenly became paler, and her eyes were extremely surprised. But after the surprise, she smiled. Let me see how you are going to get rid of that cold energy this time. The moment when the death seal blew on the cold magic sword, the bone-chilling cold energy in the ice magic sword also flowed out at this opportunity, seeping through Shiryan's entire body. The true motive of Gu Linglong was to let the cold energy of this ice magic sword make Shiryan's body freeze up completely. Chao Jilan chuckled. She looked towards Shiryan with interest and said, "The cold energy has entered your body. How are you going to deal with it? Why is there a need to deal with it?" Shiryan frowned and glanced afar at Gu Linglong. He mocked, "Didn't that retard Gu Jianga tell you? I was once sealed in ice by the ice-cold flame for 3 years? Even the cold energy of the ice-cold flame couldn't do anything to me. Can the cold power of your little ice magic sword be stronger than the cold power of the ice-cold flame?" Gu Linglong's face suddenly changed. "Retreat!" At this very moment, Yang Mu suddenly roared. The light in his giant sword shone, and beams of extremely sharp sword aura accurately shot towards Panja and the rest. Taking this opportunity, Yang Mu and the group of Yang family warriors immediately stepped inside the meteorite formation. "Let's go." Karma waved his hand and shouted, "Young Master Yan, we should leave now." "You guys go first." Shiryan's face suddenly changed. All the hair on his body seemed to raise. His eyes stared straight at that Chao Jilan. Chapter 227. You really surprised me. Chapter 227. You really surprised me. You're quite alert. Chao Jilan smiled, like blooming flowers. A flow of surging terrifying power swept towards Shiryan like tides. This flow of frightening power came out of nowhere. Shiryan only noticed it when it was arrived 3 meters in front of Shiryan. This frightening power that came from Chao Jilan was everywhere. Silently, it already sealed all escape routes around Shiryan. Whether it be in the sky or below the ground, everything was occupied by this power. No matter which way Shuryen backed off to, he would touch this flow of power. This flow of terrifying power did not flow towards Shuryen with a fast speed. Perhaps it was because the overcasting power was too broad that caused it to go extremely slowly when in action. Damn little brat, I'll see how you're gonna block it now. In the distance, Gu Linglong shouted coldly. She was going to activate the magical sword to attack again. Little sister Gu, you can leave this guy to me. You don't need to intervene. Chao Zhilan frowned. She turned back and glacéed at Gu Linglong, then said lightly, "Don't worry, when I capture him, I'll let you take out your anger on him." Capture him? Gu Linglong dazed, her nose twitched. Why won't you just kill him? Gu Linglong's bright eyes darted, and then she smiled. There is something I want on him. If he dies too soon, I might not be able to get the things that are on him. Shuryen's expression was serious. What do you want? The things inside that ring of yours. Chao Zhilan smiled joyfully. Her jade-like fingers pointed at the blood vein ring on Shuryen's hand. You might not know, but my martial spirit can sense any extraordinary power. As for what is inside your ring, of course you know it better than I do. The ice-cold flame and the 10,000-year-old core fire. Shuryen's expression changed. When he looked at Chao Zhilan again, the alertness in his eyes got more intense. This woman can actually sense the ice-cold flame and the 10,000-year-old core fire inside the blood vein ring. What kind of magical martial spirit does she have? Shuryen, who was secretly stunned, stirred his negative powers, petrified his body, and performed the dark light shield at the same time. He pushed out all of his defensive powers, preparing to handle the hit of the slowly approaching, but inescapable frightening power. You can't get away. Chao Zhilan seemed to know what he wanted to do. She chuckled and shook her head. Even Yang Mu can't save you now. Then, a colorful ribbon flew out of Chao Zhilan's sleeve. That ribbon was like a snake, wiggling in midair and dragging out streaks of blinding rainbow light. The rainbow lights weaved into a net and also formed another layer of barrier constraint. With the flying of the ribbons, the power in the barrier seemed to get more complicated and vigorous, as if it was made with several different powers, posing a similarity to Shuryen's gravitational field. Boom! Young Mu's giant sword suddenly slashed onto the light net. The rainbow lights were like strong silk threads. Some of the rainbow lights shattered from the blow of the giant sword. However, more rainbow lights from that light net soon gathered towards the point at which the giant sword hit and quickly repaired the area of damage. Yang Mu, if you want to break my rainbow net in a short time, it probably won't be easy. Chao Zhilan calmly waved her thin hand. The rainbow ribbons quickly flew and weaved into more rainbow lights. Yang Mu, why don't you try a few more times? I think if you try a few times more, you would surely be able to break my rainbow net. Big brother! Yang Ke roared, we need to go now. Little Yen! Yang Mu roared angrily, can you get up? If you don't go now, it would be very hard to leave. Yang Mu also sensed how Chao Zhilan surrounded Shuryen, and he knew that Shuryen was temporarily trapped. Thus he hurriedly intervened, in an attempt to shatter the terrifying energies around Shuryen, so that Shuryen can break out of the trap. Yang Mu wanted to save Shuryen, but the situation at the moment was not looking so good. Many warriors from the Yang family already went ahead into the meteor formation. At the moment, the few ones left outside were only Yang Mu, Yang Ke, and Li Fenger. At this time, if they get entangled with the opponents, then it would be hard even for them to get into the meteor formation. Big brother, you go first. Shuryen roared, don't fall into their trap. You will only get more opportunities if you enter inside. Don't get everyone else implicated because of me. The brotherly love is so touching. Xia Kue sneered. He glared at Yang Mu with a dark evil look in his eyes. If you're brothers, then you should live together and die together. Yang Mai, last time at Black Rock Island, you killed my fellow junior disciple for this kid. In the eyes of you young family people, our lives aren't worth a thing. This time the reason why our evil wonderland is going against your Yang family also has something to do with your unhesitating murder. This time this kid is in trouble again. Are you going to die with him for his sake this time? Big brother! Yang Ke screamed. While he was talking, Xia Kuei and his group already surrounded Yang Mu. Gu Linglong, Xia Kuei, and Panja attacked together. They formed into a triangular formation to deal with Yang Mu. The three didn't make a murderous attempt immediately. Instead, they directed their sharp attacks to gather towards the meteor formation behind Yang Mu. Once Yang Mu backs off, he would land himself into the trap where all the attacks had gathered. Xia Kuei and the rest were trying to block off Yang Mu's escape first, so that even at a life and death emergency, he wouldn't be able to escape into the meteor formation. I won't leave then. Yang Mu suddenly relaxed. He glimpsed behind him at the spot where lights gathered, and said with cold pride, even if I can't leave, I will drag you guys down with me. Xia Kuei, stop making your fucking excuses. The evil Wonderland single-sidedly broke the Treaty of Alliance and colluded with people from other seas to go against our Yang family. For what other reason can it be than their greed for our Yang family's riches? And that they want to take the Yang family's place in the Kiara Sea? Xia Kuei sneered, your Yang family has been arrogant in the Kiara Sea for too long. Because of the belligerent nature of the Yang family, none of the neighboring big seas have been at peace. The warriors from those seas have held grudges against the Yang family for a long time. With young Qingdi getting trapped this time, it's just the right fuse for the situation. Yang Mu, since you don't want to leave anymore, then I won't waste any more time either. Chao Zhilan pressed her lips and smiled. She casually looked towards Shiryan. Your big brother wants to protect you, but now he's getting the same outcome as you. Having someone to go to the afterlife with you, you won't be that lonely anymore. Later when you tell me the method to opening your ring, I will let you die easily. I won't give you extra pain. Bitch, you think you've got me for sure now? Shiryan took in a deep breath. His expression soon turned vicious. Curse all you want. You can curse a few more times before you die. I won't mind. Chao Zhilan still had that calm, careless look, as if no matter how badly Shiryan cursed at her, it won't move her at all, and it cannot affect her mind. Yangku, you guys go. Under the siege of Xia Kuei and the two others, he suddenly roared, remember to revenge for me. Big brother. Yangku suddenly smiled. He shook his head. We've been brothers for all this time. If you are to stay, how can I escape alone? Isn't it just death? When has us, the Yang family members, been scared of death? Li Fenger already had one foot in the meteor formation, but ultimately she didn't enter, and instead she stopped. Her eyes gleamed with cold light as she said coldly, as if I'm scared of death. Then, Li Fenger stepped back from the meteor formation and stood next to Yangku again. Huff, huff. Heavy panting sounds suddenly came from inside the field. The attackers that originally had their attention on Yang Mu, Yang Ko, and Yang Fenger couldn't help but look towards Shiryan when they heard the panting. Unknowingly, Shiryan's eyes had turned into a bright red color. His facial expressions were twisted and ferocious. Violent, crazy, bloodthirsty energies surged from all over his body, giving people an extremely dangerous feeling. His bright red eyes stared deep into the soul, like a ghost from the depths of hell, with the most extreme evil. The second sky of Rampage. Little Yen. Yang Mu's face changed. He exclaimed, what happened to you? I'm fine. Better than ever. Shiryan clenched his teeth. He roared with a low voice. The different negative powers surged towards all directions like enormous waves with him as the center. The terrifying power that came from Chao Zhilan was forced more than 10 meters away from the frightening air wave formed by these negative powers. A mass of murderous thoughts uncontrollably appeared in the bottom of his heart. At this moment, Shiryan was in the second sky of Rampage. The different negative emotions have started to rush into his mind, gathering with his consciousness, forming into a spiritual storm, sweeping towards where the other warriors gathered. The spiritual storm formed by different negative emotions had the evil power to delude people's minds, making them fall into a state of madness. Wherever the spiritual storm went, those Earth Realm warriors seemed to have lost control of the murderous thoughts in their minds, and couldn't help but raise their weapons to attack the people beside them. That trick again! Panja's handsome face showed some signs of fear. Be careful, don't get affected by his evil spiritual power. Wisps of negative powers formed and gathered on Shuriyan's body. The martial skill, second sky of rampage, made him who was only in the disaster realm increase double in power. Shuriyan's expression was extremely ferocious, like an evil spirit. He used the negative energies on him to push away the gushing powers that surrounded him and actually walked step by step towards Chao Jilan. No wonder Panja and the rest had lost. Chao Jilan revealed a serious expression for the first time. Her bright eyes shone with a mysterious light. A disaster realm warrior can actually have such terrifying power. Shuriyan, you really surprised me. It seems that I've underestimated you before. You actually didn't take out your real power until now. He's actually even stronger than that battle. Gu Lingling's pretty face changed. She looked at Shuriyan with an unbelievable expression and couldn't help but exclaim. In the last battle, Shuriyan was in the second sky of Disaster Realm. He had only activated the first sky of Rampage. This time, Shuriyan was at the peak of the Disaster Realm, performing the second sky of Rampage. The atmosphere on him was not just a bit stronger than the last battle. Chapter 228, Turn the Tide. Chapter 228, Turn the Tide. In the rubbled palace, most of the warriors from the Yang family had already went ahead into the meteor formation. Now, the only ones who still stayed outside were Yang Mu, Yang Ke, Li Feng'er, and Shuriyan. However, on Chao Jilan and Panja's side, there were almost 100 warriors, of which Panja, Chao Jilan, Xia Kuei, Chu Yanqing, and Gu Linglong were all elite figures on the leaderboard. These 5 people were enough to win against Shuriyan's group. With Shuriyan inadvertently getting surrounded by the wave-like powers that Chao Jilan released, Yang Mu also got in the mess by trying to save him. Afterwards, Yang Ke and Li Feng'er both knew that their chances were slim, but they stopped, turned around, and stood with Yang Mu. In the field, Shuriyan finally performed the second sky of Rampage in such a serious crisis, making the rolling negative energies in his meridians merge with the blood in his body. At that moment, the power in Shuriyan's body doubled again. Being at the peak of the disaster realm, the power on his body kept increasing. Under the refining of the surging negative powers, they instantly formed into frightening evil impacts and actually pushed away the omnipresent powers that Chao Jilan quietly casted this way. And Shuriyan himself started stepping towards Chao Jilan. The evil powers of hate, fear, desperation, bloodthirst, and violence gushed out of Shuriyan's body. This flow of evil power rushed up into the sky like a whirlwind. As Shuriyan walked, the waves of evil power kept forming and actually transformed into 3 magnificent mountain-like demonic shadows. 3 demonic shadows were formed with different negative powers. They had Shuriyan's soul imprint on them and carried surging negative emotions. The demonic phantoms were foggy and floated above Shuriyan's head. Their faces were blurred, but gave an extremely terrifying feeling to others. Shuriyan's eyes were bright red. He coldly glared at Chao Jilan. Murderous thoughts came into his mind. Those 3 giant demonic phantoms suddenly flew out simultaneously. Their big demon claws were like overcasting dark clouds, pressing towards Chao Jilan. The faces of everyone in the field suddenly changed. Shuriyan's power instantly soared and formed 3 giant demonic phantoms on top of his head. The 3 demonic phantoms seemed like they were illusions, but brought extremely fierce and frightening energy fluctuations. Anyone could see that once they get hit by a demonic phantom, it wouldn't be weaker than a full power hit from Shuriyan. Little Yen, you really are something. On the side, Yang Mu laughed out loud. He held a big sword in one hand and swung it at the sky. The giant sword in his hand seemed light as a feather to him. It swung a beautiful arc in the sky. A cluster of bright silver light suddenly shot out and forced back the approaching Panja with one blow. Suddenly, from inside the meteor formation, Yang Shui, Karma, and Zhang Huquan appeared. These Yang family warriors that went ahead into the meteor formation saw that Yang Mu and the others were at such a delay, and finally realized that Yang Mu had probably encountered danger. They actually came back and appeared again. With the help from Yang Shui and the other Yang family warriors, They temporarily resolved the attacks towards Yang Mu and the two others, unburdening them. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Three giant demonic phantoms, under the murderous thoughts from Shi Yan's mind, crazily pounced towards Chao Zhilan. The three demonic phantoms were formed purely with the negative powers in the meridians. They weren't afraid of physical attacks. No godly weapon could kill these phantoms. Under the attacks of these three demonic phantoms, Chao Zhilan's expression also became more serious. While being encircled by three giant phantoms, Chao Zhilan's delicate hand waved slightly, and different energy fluctuations that were different from profound qi flew out of his palm. Those strange power fluctuations rippled like water. Energy fluctuations formed into a strange barrier that was difficult to see by the naked eye. This barrier actually had extraordinary defense power. Under the bombarding of the three demonic phantoms, that strange barrier kept twisting, but never broke. More traces of sweat appeared on Chao Zhilan's supple cheek. It seemed that also she could defend against the attack of the three demonic shadows with the profoundness of her martial skill. She still had to use up quite a lot of power. The seal of life and death. Shi Yan roared. The patterns from both hands suddenly glowed in bright light. With 7 seals per hand, the seals merged in pairs and suddenly blowed towards Chao Zhilan. Boom, 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 boom. 7 deep and fierce bursts came from the barrier formed by Chao Zhilan. The extraordinary barrier that was difficult to see by the naked eye turned into firefly-like lights that shattered into the sky and spread everywhere. Chao Zhilan's pretty face changed slightly. She exclaimed, "Star shift." The lights that spread throughout the sky suddenly gathered quickly and formed into a smooth flat mirror in front of Chao Zhilan. At the moment the mirror surface formed, the three giant demonic phantoms just happened to force themselves this way, their claws fiercely grabbing towards Chao Zhilan. Magically, the three giant demonic phantoms suddenly disappeared without a trace when they fell into the mirror surface. Just right in front of Chao Zhilan, those three demonic phantoms seemed as if they vanished in thin air, not leaving a single trace. A surprised light flashed across Shi Yan's bright red eyes. His mind shifted, and with the help of his senses, he realized that those three giant demonic phantoms actually appeared outside the palace, 3 li away from here. Chao Zhilan used a profound martial spirit that actually managed to transport the demonic phantoms formed by negative powers and easily resolved his fatal blow. You sure have some methods. Only in the disaster realm, you can actually force me to use such a defensive martial skill. You have enough to take pride in. Chao Zhilan gave a light sigh and shook her head. With some sympathy she said, "I originally wanted to catch you alive, but since you had such an eye-catching performance, it seems that I'll have to kill you first, then slowly try to figure out the secrets on you." After those words came out, suddenly there were strange lights glimmering in Chao Zhilan's deep, beautiful eyes. Those strange lights circulated in a special pattern in her eyes, like the stars up in the sky, moving in their mysterious tracks according to the laws of the universe. At the same time, flows of different types of powers quickly surged in Chao Zhilan's delicate body. Inside her body, 5 different lights the colors of red, yellow, green, blue, and green quietly appeared. These 5 different colored lights became more and more obvious. Each holy light seemed to be a power entirely different from profound qi. 5-colored holy light. Yang Mu's expression was extremely stern. He suddenly roared, "Shi Yan, you can't fight the enemy head-on. Retreat immediately." Shi Yan's bright red eyes stared coldly at Chao Zhilan. At this most breathtaking moment, he suddenly closed his eyes. The faces of Yang Shui, Yang Ko, and Li Feng'er suddenly changed. Together they all yelled out, trying to convince Shi Yan to dodge. The 5-colored holy light was a sacred-level martial spirit from the Chao family. It is said that the cultivation of the skill was extremely difficult. First you have to cultivate 5 martial spirits that each form different powers, and then try to master all of those 5 martial skills, thus owning 5 different types of powers in one's body. Only then could they start cultivating the 5-colored holy light. Because the 5-colored holy light was so hard to cultivate, even in the Chao family, there were rarely anyone that could successfully cultivate it. Reportedly, the power of the skill was extremely astonishing. Once Yang Mu and the rest saw the 5 different colored lights coming from inside Chao Jilan's body, they immediately recognized this legendary martial skill. They hurriedly tried to advise Shiryan to dodge. However, at this crucial moment, Shiryan actually closed his eyes. After Yang family warriors like Yang Mu, Yang Shui, Li Feng'er shouted in shock, their expressions appeared to be extremely anxious. They wanted to go help Shiryan, but they were stopped by the opponents in front of them and had no time to spare. I know those 3 giant demonic phantoms are quickly flying this way, but I think you won't be able to wait until their help comes. The 5-colored holy light came out, and a flow of extremely dangerous power presence came from her body. That 5-colored holy light suddenly gathered in front of her voluminous breasts. 5 types of holy light quickly formed into one broad beam holy light that was wide as a sky-reaching pillar. Devastating energy fluctuations came from inside that holy light and suddenly shot out. Its target was pointed straight at Shiryan. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The wide 5-colored holy light shot out of thin air. Its speed was faster than the naked eye could catch. Shiryan stood firmly in his place. Whoosh! The 5-colored god light shoot through his body. Its force was like a laser beam. It shattered one of the skyscraping pillars behind him and continued to shoot forward, crumbling another palace on its way. Little Yen! Yang Mu screamed. His expression was grievous. There were bits of mysterious light gleaming in Chao Jilan's beautiful eyes. Her pretty face was a little surprised. She said faintly, "Another illusion. You've escaped this time, but are you going to have such great luck next time?" In the stone fragments that flew all over the sky, another Shiryan's shadow slowly appeared. Using the electric shift and the phantom shift, and with the magical mental state of the second sky of Rampage, Shiryan was able to predict the attack speed and direction of the holy light ahead of time, thus dodging the fatal blow of the 5-colored holy light. This time, I won't dodge. His bright red eyes calmly looked at Chao Jilan. Shiryan's tone was flat, without a single trace of emotion. Wisps of scorching flame power quietly seeped out of the blood vein ring. The flame power swept through his meridians. Wisps of flames came about the nostrils and eye corners of Shiryan. The condition of his body was extremely strange. At the crucial moment, the then 1,000-year-old core fire had reached out in aid once again, injecting the fire power that can burn all beings into his body. Chapter 229, Counterattack. Chapter 229, Counterattack. Dude, you scared the crap out of me. Li Feng'er stuck out her tongue and revealed an expression of lingering fear. You can even dodge the 5-colored holy light. You certainly are no ordinary person. Yang Mu's expression also loosened. He threw a look at Shiryan from far away, signaling Shiryan to find an opportunity to retreat back to the meteor formation. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The harsh wind sound came again. The wave of 5-colored holy light that was dodged by Shiryan came back and actually shot towards Shiryan's back after crushing another palace. You're not going to dodge anymore? Are you for real? There was a mocking smile on Chao Jilan's lips. Let me see your courage then. Little Yen, don't get triggered by her. This 5-colored holy light is formed by 5 different types of powers. Even a normal disaster realm warrior probably won't be able to handle it. Don't act rashly. Yang Mu shouted. Yang Ku and Yang Shui also tried to advise him. Shiryan closed his eyes again. The 5-colored holy light that came back brought an energy fluctuation that could destroy that heavens and earth. It blew towards Shiryan's back. Boom! Clusters of flames continuously flew out of Shiryan's body. The scorching flame power that came from the core fire instantly turned the area behind Shiryan into a sea of fire. Crackling sounds appeared in the air, and the fiery power that could destroy all beings gushed inside that flame. Just like that, the 5-colored holy light fell into the sea of fire formed by the flames of the 10,000-year-old core fire. Sss. Inside the sea of fire, there came strange sounds. They could see that the 5-colored holy light was being burnt by the flame power inside the sea of fire. Firelight of 5 different colors appeared from inside the sea of fire. The power of this five-colored holy light was rapidly being burned by the sea of fire, and its power was quickly being weakened. The 10,000-year-old core fire at the moment could count as a sky fire. The power of a sky fire was earth-shattering, able to burn all beings. The sea of fire formed by the flame power of this core fire also had the elemental properties of a sky fire. That scorching flame power was able to burn anything into flames. The different types of powers and energies were also no exception. The five-colored holy light rushed into the sea of fire and was turned to ashes by the flame power at such a quick speed, only leaving colorful five-colored smoke and ashes behind. I told you, I won't dodge anymore. Shiryen finally opened his eyes again. He glared coldly at Chao Jilan. Inside your five-colored holy light, there's your soul seal, and your soul consciousness can lock my location. Next time, no matter how I try to dodge, I would still be endlessly chased by your five-colored holy light. So, I'm not going to dodge anymore. You can actually sense my soul consciousness? Chao Jilan's beautiful eyes glinted with mysterious colores. Only a Nirvana realm warrior that has formed a sea of consciousness can sense my soul lock. You're only in the disaster realm. How can you possibly sense my soul lock? I don't understand. There are way more things that you don't understand. A trace of disdain flashed in Shiryan's bright red eyes. Then he lightly shouted, "Counterattack!" The three demonic phantoms that flew in from outside the palace suddenly surged into the middle of the pursuing warriors. At the same time, Shiryan's soul consciousness formed into a soul storm, adding the different negative emotions into it, and started a raging soul storm where the crowd of people was the most concentrated. Warriors under the Nirvana realm couldn't form the sea of consciousness and could only use their mind power. They couldn't form attacks that can target souls. However, Shiryen was able to use the soul-gathering pearl to unbelievably form the sea of consciousness ahead of time. With the help of his sea of consciousness, he first saw through all the secrets of Chao Jilan's soul lock. Now he was using soul attacks to bombard those pursuing killers. The formation of the sea of consciousness meant that Shiryan's evolution of the soul was more successful than everyone here. With the sea of consciousness, Shiryan's soul senses were in every corner. He could use soul attacks to go against any soul to perform a surprise attack. The sea of consciousness that was never used before suddenly bursted out with the attack of the soul storm. Wherever the soul storm went, those pursuing attackers became red-headed, then completely forgot who they were and raised the weapons in their hands to attack the allies next to them. Waves of soul storms affected dozens of pursuing attackers, making those attackers go into disorder and become insane. Taking advantage of the situation, Shiryen used his mind to control those three demonic phantoms. Those demonic phantoms were formed with pure negative energies and flew around in the field, going through the bodies of warriors. Whenever a demonic phantom went through the body of a warrior, that person's life force would be immediately cut off and die on the spot. Shiryen suddenly crossed his legs and sat down on his spot. Using his mind to control the three giant demonic phantoms, he was also gathering soul consciousness at the same time, adding in the negative emotions, forming a soul storm that made people lose their sanity, thus continuously influencing the battling enemies, making the pursuing attackers start to go crazy. Soul consciousness. This is soul consciousness. Chao Jilan's soul martial spirit, after a moment of comprehension, finally realized something. She couldn't help but shout. Her face was filled with shock. What? Gu Linglong's pretty face changed drastically. She shook her head unbelievably. This kid is clearly only in the disaster realm. How can he possess the sea of consciousness? Chao Jilan didn't answer. She copied Shiryen and also sat down. The storage ring on her hand flashed, and a red leather battle drum appeared in the palm of her hand. Bum, bum, bum. Across from Shiryen, Chao Jilan's legs were crossed, and her fair hands hit beat by beat on that battle drum. The sound of the drum seemed to have a mysterious power that twisted soul consciousness. The beating of the drum seemed to have stabbed into Shiryan's head like a piercer, seeping into Shiryan's sea of consciousness, making him unable to form soul consciousness to form an attack again. This battle drum was clearly made to go against the sea of consciousness of Nirvana realm warriors. Bum, Bum, bum. The strange sound of the drum rang throughout the field. Each of the warriors that were turned to insanity by Yan's soul storm had regained clarity in their eyes and slowly awakened. Yan's face changed. He abruptly stood up and nodded towards Yangmu. Retreat. The three demonic phantoms that were formed with negative energies became a little out of control due to the disorder in Yan's sea of consciousness. They started to split into streaks of pale smoke, raveling towards Gu Linglong and the others. The soul storm was no longer working, and even the demonic phantoms formed with negative energies were hard to control. At the same time, the fatigue in his body became heavier and heavier. The aftereffect of the second sky of rampage seemed to have slowly started. In this kind of situation, Yan made a prompt decision. He knew that they continue the fight, they were probably going to be killed one by the opponents. Retreat! Yangmu roared, his shoulder bumped and sent Yang Ke straight back into the meteor formation. He was scared that Yang Ke might act stupidly again, so he sent him inside ahead of time. Then he finally shouted towards Li Fenger and the rest that were not far away, "Let's go." Feeling the fatigue in his body rush in like waves, Yan no longer overexerted himself and hurriedly retreated backwards. A graceful figure wearing a fiery red armor suddenly appeared into view. Yan slightly dazed, then he realized that the beautiful figure was actually Qingman. Qingman's pretty face was cold. She performed an intense martial skill and fought with Yang Shui. When Yangmu's loud roar came, Qingman snorted coldly. The movements on her hands became more and more intense, with the ferocious look on his face as if she was going to keep Yang Shui from escaping. "You wanna die?" Yan was just about to storm back towards Yang Shui's direction when he clearly saw the intense movements on Qingman's hands. He snorted coldly and raised his hand. The life seal formed with profound qi suddenly bursted out. Qingman was just concentrating on her fight with Yang Shui, and out of nowhere she realized there was a turbulent fluctuation coming from behind her. Her pretty face changed, and when she turned her head she immediately noticed Yan's life seal attack. A strange expression appeared on Qingman's flirtatious face. She bitterly threw a glare at Yan, then suddenly withdrew herself to back off towards Yang Shui's direction. Yang Shui, who was dueling with her, clearly had a great opportunity, but surprisingly didn't make a killing attempt. Instead, she suddenly backed off into the meteor formation. Yan was stunned. Yang Shui had obviously held back. If she didn't hurriedly back into the meteor formation and fought back at Qingman, then Qingman, who was busy with dodging the blow of the life seal, definitely would not have blocked an attack from behind her. "Mind your own business." Qingman's charming figure drifted away like the wind. She quietly cursed it out while dodging Yan's life seal. Yan dazed. Glimpsing towards Qingman a few more times and remembering back to Yang Shui's strange actions, Yan suddenly came to a realization. So these two women had been pretending all along. The two seemed to be fighting very intensely, but in reality they never made murderous attempts. They were only making a show in front of everyone. Yan, who had reacted to the situation, still had a cold expression on his face. He said coldly, "Piss off." He let out the dark shield and petrified his body. Yan was like a sharp sword, quickly sweeping past Qingman's side and quickly rushing towards that meteor formation. Qingman raised her hand. Beams of sharp bright light shot from her 5 fingers and all blew at Yan's back. The bright light that seemed intense actually didn't have much invading power on his body. If Yan didn't shatter his dark shield on purpose, this blow from Qingman wouldn't even be able to break the most simple dark shield. This woman still had some touches of sentiment in her. Through this blow, Yan had finally confirmed that even though Qingman came to the chasm battlefield, her objectives were different from Siekue's. She didn't actually want to kill them. Yan's figure disappeared within a flash. He vanished at where the dark gray cloud was the most dense. Yangmu laughed loudly and disappeared last. Panja and the rest had ugly expressions on their faces. They rushed towards that area with the pursuing killers and were just about to enter into the meteor formation. "Let's not chase first." Chao Jilan, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, suddenly stood up. She shook her head with a serious expression and explained, "There is a formation in there. It's quite dangerous. The reason why the Yang family members can get in and out safely is because they already resolved the formation. But if you enter rashly, you will be attacked by the formation. Then what do we do?" Gu Longlong clenched her teeth and said bitterly, "Are we just going to let this go? I thought you were pretty strong, yet you still can't do anything with that brat Yan? And you said leave him to you. I just shouldn't have trusted you. If I had come along, we definitely would have been able to kill him. Little sister Gu, if you're so confident, then I'll give him to you next time." Chao Jilan didn't get mad. She smiled casually and said, "But now, everyone calm down. Can you wait for me to break the formation for you first?" Everyone was silent, and then they all nodded. Chapter 230, Lost. Chapter 230, Lost. Inside the meteor formation. Meteorites as big as millstones were falling from the sky one after one, and their impacts were extremely violent. As soon as he entered the meteor formation, Yan immediately saw a meteorite landing beside him. Gray smoke was very thick in this place. Yan couldn't see anyone. When he used his soul consciousness, he couldn't sense any life signal around him, either. As he entered the formation, Yan felt as if he had walked into a strange environment where his 5 senses were clogged up and his soul consciousness was hindered. Remembering the words of Jiang Huquan, 7 steps to the left then 5 steps to the right, Yan followed this simple footwork and walked deeper into this strange meteor formation. He couldn't see people nor sense anything with his soul consciousness except for the meteorites falling over one after another. Jiang Huquan's footwork was indeed very magical. Following this pattern, Yan could see the meteorites falling one by one, but none of those meteors could hit him. When some of the meteorites were about to hit him, Yan wanted to try to block the meteorites using his body, but he soon found out that the meteorites fell to his side instead of hitting on him. It was like as long as he followed Jiang Huquan's footwork, he would never get hit. Yan calmed down and sped up his pace to get through this meteor formation. Suddenly, a strange thought came out from the blood vein ring. Yan was startled. He halted immediately. He used his soul consciousness to sense, and his face slightly changed. The earth flame became very excited. It even wanted to break out from the blood vein ring's constraint. It was unknown why it became agitated inside this meteor array. The ice-cold flame was also present inside the blood vein ring. As the blood vein ring seemed to know that the ice-cold flame was all along a threat toward Yan, it used a magical power inside the ring to bind the ice-cold flame to prevent it from using its ability to attack Yan. However, the blood vein ring's attitude was very loose towards the 10,000-year earth flame. It seemed to know that the 10,000-year earth flame wouldn't harm Yan, so not only did it construct a comfortable environment for it inside the ring, but also didn't bind the earth flame. This meant the earth flame could come out from the ring as easily as it wished. This time, the earth flame's abnormality was that it wanted to come out. Don't. Yan used his soul consciousness to try to stop the earth flame, but he found that he was already too late. From the moment he released his soul consciousness, the earth flame had already flown away from the blood vein ring, heading towards his right side. Inside the meteor formation, Yan's soul consciousness couldn't detect any life fluctuations around him, but this restriction seemed not to degrade his connection to the earth flame. Maybe that was because the relationship between him and the earth flame was already too close, that there was a strange connection between them. Even Yan, if didn't release his soul consciousness, he still could feel the location of the earth flame. Boom, boom, boom. One after another, the meteorites continued to fall from the sky. If Yan didn't follow the footwork pattern, he definitely would have been hit. The earth flame ignored Yan's warning and flew away. It seemed to be attracted to something. At this time, if Yan still didn't continue to move, he would probably lose the earth flame's location if the distance between him and the flame became too far. Inside the chasm battlefield, there were many barriers. If he lost the connection with the earth flame, it would not be easy to find it again. At this time, the earth flame was only 1 step away from fully ascending from their location. Also at this time, if there were someone who wanted to catch it, as long as they knew the right way, they could ultimately replace Shiryen and establish a deep connection between him and the Earth Flame, and thus became the Earth Flame's new master. Shiryen's face looked uncertain. He pondered for a while, and then he decided to catch up with the Earth Flame. As he changed his pace, he immediately used his essence chi to burst toward the Earth Flame's location like a sharp sword. Boom, boom, boom. At the moment he changed his footwork, the meteorites inside the meteor formation suddenly came and crashed at him as if they had eyes. Washa! His shadow was like lightning, passing the falling meteorites with his fastest speed while avoiding them. Boom, boom. A huge meteorite suddenly came and crashed Shiryen's back. An extreme force of impact burst out from his back. Although his petrified body could withstand the impact, he couldn't maintain his speed, and thus he became the target for other meteorites. In just a few seconds, his body couldn't bear the impact from 5 meteorites, and his body was also exhausted. Under this bombardment, his mouth started to gush out blood again. Shiryen stopped and didn't dare to make any move. He silently sensed his injuries with a little impatience. At the previous fight with Chao Jilan, he had used the second sky of Rampage, and his meridians had also absorbed a lot of essence chi from the dead. Now, the backlash started to show its effect, and his body became weaker. At this time, he was hit by 5 meteorites and damaged badly. If it wasn't because of his petrification martial spirit, he would have already fallen to the ground under those attacks. The Earth Flame was 100 meters in front of him. For now, this distance was like a death road which was tough to pass through. If he weren't careful, he would be hit again. Inside this array, he was not sure when Chao Jilan's group would appear. If he lost his consciousness here, not only would he continue bearing the impact of those meteorites, but he also had to face the risk of being detected by Chao Jilan and the others. But if he followed the footwork, he could still get through this meteor formation and thus avoid the danger from the meteorites and Chao Jilan. However, if he did so, he would probably lose the Earth Flame. With a sullen face, Shiryen looked hesitated. In his mind, he kept weighing gains and losses and needed to make a decision soon. I'll ignore it for now. 10 seconds later, Shiryen made up his mind to put aside the Earth Flame first and wait for his body to recover before he returns to find the Earth Flame. He was ready to leave. Bzzz. Suddenly, a dazzling red light came from Earth Flame's direction. A strong burning fire energy suddenly burst out. The Earth Flame was very excited. It used its mind power to urge Shiryen to keep up. Shiryen was stunned. The mind power from the Earth Flame was very clear. It seemed like it had found something and told Shiryen to hurry up. As the Earth Flame didn't have a solid form, it couldn't be hit inside the meteor formation. It also didn't know that every step that Shiryen took faced a considerable danger. It was just calling Shiryen, wanting to share its findings with him. Struggling inside his heart and feeling the call from the Earth Flame, Shiryen's eyes changed again and again. Damn, bring it on. A moment later, Shiryen changed his decision. He took a deep breath and swallowed a few of chi refining pills. After he had felt the profound chi inside his body restored a bit, he triggered the electric shift and flew toward the Earth Flame's direction. Boom, boom, boom. Another 3 meteorites hit his body. The fierce impact power damaged his body and blew him into the air. He gushed out a mouthful of blood. By relying on petrification and immortal martial spirits, he didn't care about his damaged body. He triggered the electric shift again, and finally, he arrived at the Earth Flame's location before other meteorites fell near his location. Everything became quiet again. As he entered the area where the Earth Flame was, the meteorites suddenly disappeared. With the mouth full of blood, Shiryen fell on the ground, and his face looked surprised at this area. It was an ancient array with the size of a house. Outside the ancient array, many circles of the energy flow were formed. These energy flow blocked the meteorites and prevented those meteorites from entering this array. Inside the ancient array, Shiryen couldn't hear anything. The Earth Flame was floating in the middle of the ancient array. A thumb-sized crimson-red crystal laid inside the groove in the center. It seemed like that crystal was the supply source of this ancient array, overflowing red firelight and transmitting some sort of energy to this array. Outside the ancient array, there were also many grooves. Each of those grooves had a different color crystal, and each of the crystals transmitted a strange energy to provide energy to this ancient array. The earth flame was floating above that red crystal and jumping cheerfully, seeming like it wanted to absorb the energy inside the crystal. After Shiryen had entered and examined this ancient array, he was about to ask the earth flame what this red crystal was used for, but he found the crystals around the ancient array burst out a colorful halo all of a sudden. The ancient array that was initially quiet started to run automatically after he had entered. Being surprised a bit, Shiryen knew that this array was probably going to be activated. Without thinking furthermore, he quickly sent a message to the earth flame, "Get in first." The earth flame bounced as it seemed to find something abnormal. It only hesitated for a bit before immediately drilling into Shiryen's blood vein ring. After seeing the earth flame return, Shiryen was relaxed and prepared to leave this mysterious ancient array. However, when he wanted to leave, he found that the strange energy flow outside the ancient array became a barrier that blocked the way in and out at the moment the ancient array started moving. Shiryen's head hit the barrier while it directly pushed his exhausted body into the middle of the ancient array. Shiryen was aghast. The crystals outside the array were shining dazzlingly. The ancient array suddenly spun up as if it was a disk. Through a dazzling crystal light, an extraordinary energy wave came over. Shiryen disappeared instantly. Chapter 231, Breakthrough. The Meteor Array. In another account of the old array technique, Yang Mu, Yang Shui, Yang Ke, Li Fomer, and other warriors of the Yang family were all standing in the old array technique formation. This formation was quite similar to the one of Shiryen. The only small difference was of the energy crystal around the array technique. At this time, the energy crystal kept releasing a dazzling light. The Yang family's warriors then entered into the old array technique, following the time when the light was released and disappeared continuously. Yang Mu's group followed Jian Huquan's method. Each person of the Yang family used exactly this method to move forward when entering into the old array technique, hence, they were not affected by the special outer space meteorite. According to Jian Huquan, this way led to the exit of the meteor array. Thus, Jian Huquan had reminded everyone of the Yang family to not hesitate in standing in the middle of the old array technique, or else they would have had been pushed out by the old array technique. Quickly, all the warriors of the Yang family went through into the old array technique and disappeared from the meteor array. Each person, like when Shiryen had just entered, could not have seen each other's back as it was not possible to see anything inside the meteor array. Upon entering the old array technique, everyone would be teleported in a blink, so no one was aware of one another's situation. However, thanks to Jian Huquan's encouragement, they did not hesitate and entered the old array technique right away. This was the reason why Shiryen's warriors lost trace of Yang Mu's warriors in the meteor array. Outside of the meteor array, Chao Zilan had beautiful, tender long legs with strange light flaring up in her eyes. The soul martial spirit was controlled by her spirit, which then started to analyze the transformation of the meteor array. The soul martial spirit then realized the miraculous movement of the meteor array. All the people of Panja stood outside the meteor array. Not a single person dared enter. Chao Zilan, who had been using the soul martial spirit for a while, suddenly burst into laughter, slowly stood up, and then said, "With the meteor array, you can either go to the left or to the right. As long as you do not make a wrong move, the meteorites cannot attack you. Well, if you choose go on the left, move 7 steps to the left, then 5 steps to the right, and vice versa. You can move to the right 7 steps, then to the left 5 steps, and then you can get out of the meteor array. So, should we go to the left or to the right?" Gu Linglong knitted his brows and irritatingly said, "Inside the meteor array, there are 2 sure ways out, which may possibly lead to 2 different areas. Our target is the Yang family, so we should first figure out the direction of the Yang family, and only then will we be able to pursue them." Chao Zilan calmly asked, "How can we know the path that the Yang family had taken?" Xia Kuei's face darkened with a murderous look in his eyes. Yang Mu is easy to deal with. If he isn't already dead, he will surely find a way for revenge. If we fight with the Yang family, we cannot let them have a single chance of survival. We simply cannot let anyone live. When Shiryan and I had fought, I recognized that he had vigorous flame power. I had just used my soul martial spirit recently and discovered that there was a very strong movement of flame power on the right. Chao Jilan faintly smiled. Maybe Shiryan is on the way out on the right. Yang Mu will not be separated from Shiryan. If Shiryan is there, the Yang family will be there too. Good, we'll follow the way on the right then. Panja nodded and spoke to warriors of the Penlai Divine Land who stood behind him. Remember carefully of Miss Chao's words. Once entering the meteor array, they were to first move to the right 7 steps, then to left 5 steps, not daring to make a mistake. Okay, I'll lead. Chao Jilan calmly entered first. In the middle of the immense and oppressively hot desert, a figure with their arms and legs up, like a dead squirrel, slowly breathing and exhaustively tired. Many different powers started to recover inside of his body, and the negative emotions inside of the meridian silently scattered out. The desert temperature was scorching, but there was no sun. The sky was vivid red, like the color of fresh blood. Looking around carefully, there were uneven dunes out there. There was no signs of life, no greenery, and no sound whatsoever. A flaming power stream flew out from the ring, flying around flexibly in the heated desert. It seemed to signal something. This place makes me uncomfortable. A flow of cold flames from the blood vein ring circulated around. This strange atmosphere has scorching powers. The air blast seems to belong to the sun, but there is no sun. I do not know what is going on. This is somewhere in the area of the chasm battlefield. Ugh. Strange indeed. The earth flame seems to like this place very much so. After coming here, he seems to be happy, Shiryan replied. He was kicked out by the old array technique and fell down in this vast desert. He did not have any other old array technique. His whole body was injured. He did not have any more energy to explore this mysterious place. He then laid on the ground without moving, silently recovering. We cannot see the sun in this place, but there is still the intense power of the sun. Very strange indeed. The ice-cold flame was musing for a while before it suddenly said, "This place is very suitable for your refining technique. You can rely on the mysterious power here. Use the earth flame to keep practicing the refining technique. This will help your body become stronger. Recover first, then we will see." Shiryan did not refuse and smiled miserably while looking up to the sky. He stopped talking to the ice-cold flame and focused on slowly recovering. After taking the refining pills, the power spread out and combined with his profound qi. Without using too much energy, his profound qi was getting stronger by the minute, and the consumed qi was replenished quickly. Refining pills were a marvelous drug which restored profound qi. Refining pills were treasured in the endless sea. Only powerful warriors could take them, whereas normal warriors did not have enough ability to be able to consume the refining pills. The therapeutic power of the 10 refining pills was enough for the profound qi of a warrior at the earth level stage to restore quickly. For Shiryan, who had only the disaster realm peak, the effect of these 10 refining pills was more than enough. The profound qi was silently concentrating. Shiryan relaxed his mind and started to realize the strange things that was happening inside of his body. The injured body was recovering rapidly under the effect of the immortal martial spirit. Bones, which had been destroyed by the meteorites, were strengthened every minute. Broken blood vessels were healed in a very short time. A normal person would have needed a few days to recover, but he only needed a few minutes. Inside his meridian channel, a flow of air quickly circulated and filtered the energy, which had been refined by the mysterious martial spirit, so that it could be absorbed directly. However, negative thoughts appeared and silently disturbed Shiryan's mind, pulling him down to the deep, dark abyss. This time, about 10 warriors had died inside of the castle. As a result of the death of the 10 Earth-level stage warriors, their energy was now being transferred into him. Negative feelings created from refining this energy was enough for him to lose his mind and go insane. After slowly sensing for a while, he realized that it was not easy to stay strong-minded. Shuryen contemplated for a moment and decided to hide behind the dunes. Places that he went, others could also find out. If Chaoji Lan's warriors came while he was refining the energy and got crazy, it simply would not be safe. After spending some time recovering, his body was restored a little bit. He then released the finger gun. His 10 fingers were then like 10 sabers arising out of the sand, making way for him to get into the dune. The earth flame flew around outside. It seemed to sense Shuryen's intentions and stopped careening before his body disappeared behind the dune. Shuryen, once again, immersed himself in the blood vein ring. Holding his breath, Shuryen went 10 meters inside the dune until his whole body was covered with sand and could not move any further. He then stopped. Not long after that, the refining meridian channels reached to the key point of time. He finally could not resist the persistent negative thoughts and started losing his mind. Deep down, 10 meters inside the dune, Shuryen was struggling with all the sand enveloping him. The pressure of the sand on him made it impossible to utter a single word. The sand became a natural chain that temporarily binded him. Shuryen then lost his mind and wriggled about mindlessly. He could not think of using the finger gun to claw his way out. He only kept struggling inside of the dune, squirming about mindlessly. A long time had passed. Shuryen's struggle weakened, and he stopped yelling. All strange energy silently flew out from his meridian channels, spreading to every corner in his body. Shuryen gradually lost his perception and did not realize that his body had transformed. He unwittingly had let strange energy run inside of his body, pervading his arteries and bones. Time had slowly passed. Shuryen suddenly woke up after a long time. He immediately realized that his exhausted body started to gain its full power back. No matter if it was the profound chi or his own body, both fully recovered to the max, and it couldn't be better. Oh! The light of profound chi on his belly kept condensing and shrinking. Although there was no one conducting it, the light of profound chi was refining quickly. Following the light of profound chi, every corner of his body was acting like sponges, drawing on the profound chi energy which was flowing out from the light. Shuryen's consciousness ran around his whole body inside out. His mind was suddenly omniscient. Right after that, an exciting smile appeared on his face. He then started to relax his spirit and depended on the transformation to move the energy from the light of profound chi to his body. Harnessing the power from that energy, his arteries became sparklingly transparent, like a miraculous delicate jade. His arteries were changing and gradually expanding whenever profound chi flew in. Expanding arteries helped profound chi move faster inside of his body, which meant that his capacity for profound chi was much higher. His body movement was also even quicker. The allobiosis of arteries was the best visual sign to see when the stages of disaster had broken through to the Earth-level stage. Chapter 232. The Earth Realm. Chapter 232. The Earth Realm. Translator, Editor. Inside the dune. Shuryen's entire body luminesced dazzlingly since his tendons and vessels had been overwhelmed with the bountiful profound chi which made his vessels sleek and smooth. As a result, the veins on his body were also developed, enlarged, and became much sturdier. The running speed of the profound chi was getting faster while the flow of the profound chi kept moving non-stop, then branched forth, pouring into the blinding rays of the profound chi light. The profound chi's light on his belly was continually being depressed and refined as it had propelled the stored energy inside of that ray of light so that it kept on increasing, which was the result of that peculiar strength. That fantastic strength was released from his meridians, which had then promoted the miraculous effect of the profound chi light. Thanks to this mysterious effect, the profound chi light kept on being condensed and refined nonstop, and it didn't seem to stop even though it had already tripled in size. As the vessels had been enlarged and hardened, Shuryen's body seemed to be bloated, swarmed by heavy sensations of pain. However, the pain that ensued from the bloating was nothing compared to the hardship of the martial arts cultivation. Shuryen held his breath as he was initiating the realm of his meditative state while his entire body and mind were concentrating on the process in which the profound chi light was transforming his body. Ah, said the ice-cold flame, as it suddenly sent out a message from the blood vein ring. Are you going to break through the earth realm? Yes, that's right. Very good, very good. The ice-cold flame displayed a wicked tone. You have already obtained another flame. If you use the burning fires of the earth flame to temper your vessels during your cultivation, your vessels will be more tenacious and resilient. As long as you can withstand this arduous cultivation, the circulation speed of the profound chi in your vessels will be much stronger than that of the other ordinary earth realm warriors that have been trained with the same martial art techniques as you have, which naturally means that you will be quicker than them when performing such techniques. So, what do you think of this? Yan's eyes had suddenly brightened up as he exclaimed, not a problem at all. I am connecting with the earth flame now. You don't have to do anything this time. Anyway, you are in the confinement area of the blood vein ring, and the communication between the earth flame and me is no longer difficult as from before. That's good since I can't use my strength either way for now, so I will not be able to help you. All right, after using the earth flame's power to temper your body, you still have to be on the alert and try not to be too harsh because the earth flame is now equivalent to the heaven flame. Its heating power can easily burn you down into ashes. Remember this carefully. You have to carry on just one step at a time. I got it. Yan then moved his consciousness from the ice-cold flame toward the 10,000-year earth flame's direction in the blood vein ring, sending a clear message that he wanted to ask for the support of its heating power to temper his body. The earth flame could not send out a visual message, but it still displayed its excitement and joy. As soon as the earth flame showed its emotions, Yan immediately realized that many scorching energy fibers had shot out from the blood vein ring and were now running along his finger toward the vessels inside his body. The torment from being burned by the burning fires had been spreading all over his body as his original face in being total comfort had now become fierce. He gritted his teeth and took a deep breath before urging the power of the burning fires so that it was dispersing into the vessels in his body. Right after the earth flame's burning fires had thoroughly penetrated into his vessels, the once bright translucent vessels were now turned into the brilliant colors of a fire crystal. At the same time, when the earth flame's burning forces had seeped into his body, a tiny trace of a black impurity which was instantly incinerated into ashes by the earth flame's burning fires appeared in the vessels under the constant incineration flame's burning fires and was then expelled through his pores. Absorbing a few impurities was inevitable when his vessels were developing, as the existence of impurities would have certainly affected the resilience and plasticity of his tendons and vessels. Normally, after having broken through the earth realm, the warriors would usually be so overwhelmed with joy that in the majority of time, they hadn't noticed the appearance of the impurities as their vessels were being enlarged. Even though they had known that the impurities would have also appeared while their vessels were being developed, they had no solutions to avoid it. However, these peculiar body refinement martial arts techniques could have easily taken advantage of the heaven flame's power to purify all the impurities that were left in Yan's body, as well as enhance his vessel's resilience at the same time. Anyway, body refinement martial arts techniques were originally used to temper magical weapons since each magical weapon needed to have gone through thousands of tempering and purification processes for the purities to be removed so that the weapons would dominate the battlefield without being defeated by superior weapons. All right, as the earth flame was pouring more and more scorching forces into his body, Yan could feel that even his vessels would have burned down, so he hastily sent out a message to ask the earth flame to stop. Thus, the sweltering power of the burning fires from the earth flame was then silently ceased. Releasing a long sigh, Yan stopped thinking and then put his mind in the ethereal realm, sustained his restful mind, and suffered the pain from the heat's movement inside his vessels as he gritted his teeth while being on the alert. He gradually relaxed and enlarged his vessels, receiving many streams of the profound chi that were massively flowing into his vessels like surging tides. After a while, his vessels had quietly absorbed a lot of the profound chi, which resulted in the decrease of the profound chi that were now moving inside the vessels. The profound chi also blended with the peculiar strength that had been refined by that mystery martial spirit. This strength seeped deeply into Yan's vessels, amending and soothing his painfully cracked vessels a little bit. He could clearly feel this peculiar strength's existence, which seemed to make his vessels sturdy and resilient. As long as these mysterious forces ran inside his vessels, he could instantly have a miraculous fantasy that his vessels would never break. The mystery martial spirit was marvelous indeed. Time quickly passed by. After an unknown duration of time, his vessels had stopped enlarging. Since right now, they were like a fire crystal that flared up the heart-stirring glowing red light. When the power of the burning fires had gradually vanished, and the red light also faded away, his vessels were finally recovering, little by little, as they regained their normal state. The profound chi halo on his belly shrank to the peach-like size, radiated sparkling light which contained powerful energy fluctuations. After going through this refinement, the profound chi had been increased 5 times more than before. Yan's mind flickered as the profound chi was suddenly poured into his vessels, inducing the moving speed of the profound chi inside his vessels to be tripled so that the vessel's capacity for the profound chi had also increased significantly. Yan then comfortably released a life seal. The handprint was sparkling with 7 beams of lights because it was now big as a basin compared with the normal palm size from before. He suddenly launched the strike, zooming up above his head. As soon as this life seal was released, it pierced through the 10-meter-tall dune above his head like a magical weapon, breaking the dune, opening up the glowing red sky outside. The sky was as red as fire, the atmosphere was sweltering, and everything was the same as before. Yan beamed a faint smile as the vessels on his feet suddenly produced an explosive sound, and his body then instantly moved like lightning, soaring aloft. Standing on the dune, bowing his head looking down at the sand crater, and Yan saw that his illusory figure had gradually disappeared. After breaking through the earth flame, the speed of his martial arts performance would be several times faster than before, and thus his strength must have also skyrocketed as well. Previously, he hadn't been skillful in changing the phantoms. However, as he had just reached the earth realm, he could now arbitrarily perform it. Looking up to the sky, Yan gradually restrained his joy as he then searched inside the blood vein ring for a while before taking out the sound stone, trying to make contact with Yang Mu's group. However, there was no response after his voice had been transmitted into the sound stone. It seemed that the sound stone wasn't working anymore. Yan's face became grave while he tightly knitted his eyebrows. He then tried again to transmit his voice into the sound stone, hoping for a response to come out. Regretfully, it was unknown whether, because of the situation or other reasons, that the sound stone didn't have any reactions. Eventually, Yan had to accept that he had lost contact with the Yang family's people. In the vast chasm battlefield, being an outsider as well as without the sound stone's intercourse, he had no way to find Yang Mu's group. In this immense desert, his soul consciousness couldn't detect any living fluctuations. There was no the sun, nor the moon, nor the stars. He couldn't find the direction to move forward, didn't know where the road ahead led. Yan suddenly felt a little unconscious. A small crimson-red flame was quietly flying out of the blood vein ring, gathering on his chest, joyfully dancing and jumping. "You're going out again?" Yan forced a smile and temporarily forgot all about the unknown directions. He then used his soul consciousness to send out a message to ask with excitement, "So, do you probably know the direction?" I still don't know which way to go. If you have any suggestion, I will follow you." The 10,000-year earth flame beautifully flickered in the air like a fire wizard, and then concernedly retrieved most of its flame power to reduce the heat that Yan was unlikely to endure. After having received Yan's message, the 10,000-year earth flame didn't waste more time and proactively led the way. Without the sun, the moon, and the stars, Yan couldn't clearly identify the direction, though he just vaguely felt that the direction that the earth flame was heading towards was the hottest place in the desert. "Okay, I am going with you." Yan revealed a smile and nodded. He joyfully followed the earth flame, heading with it towards the direction that it was leading him without overthinking. It was still early anyway, and even if he had to stay in this chasm battlefield for 3 more years, temporarily losing his direction was not a terrible thing. Thus, he was not too anxious. Under the red fire sky, in this endless desert, Many beams of light flashed up in different areas at the same time. Besides Shi Yan, Chao Jilan, Panja, Gu Linglong, Xia Kui, Chu Yanqing, He Qingman, and almost 100 of the other warriors that had also arrived at this desert. Although they had entered that ancient formation as a group, for some reason, they had been transported to different areas. Panja, Chao Jilan, and more than 10 other warriors who didn't belong to the group of the two of them that had been moved to the same area. Meanwhile, Gu Linglong and Chu Yanqing had been transferred to another totally different area. Meanwhile, Xia Kui and He Qingman, who were always together, had appeared in two different but close areas. They then quickly found each other. Many of the Earth Realm warriors, who had also been scattered in different areas of this immense desert, were mentally fatigued since they couldn't identify their coordinates because they didn't see the sun, the moon, or the stars. Like Shi Yan, those who had arrived at this peculiar space couldn't use the soundstone to make contact with anyone. In this place, the sensing forces of the soul consciousness were dramatically weakened, and thus their sensing powers were also very feeble. Therefore, once falling into this place as well as being unlikely to find other companions, when the warriors realized that both the soundstone and the sensing power was of no use, they were all in a daze like Shi Yan, without knowing any directions or where to go first in this boundless desert. The feeling of losing their purposes had dispirited them severely. After having arrived at this place, as those pursuers all realized that it was very hard to find their target as well as the way to go back, they all had a toneless look on their faces. Chapter 233, Killable. Chapter 233, Killable. Miss Chao, your spirit god martial spirit is always miraculous. Can you find out the location of Shi Yan and the Yang family from here? On a dune, after having tried the Yin Jade as well as failing in releasing the spirit power, Panja dispiritedly asked Chao Jilan in the end, setting his hope on this woman. Chao Jilan's eyebrows slightly slammed together. She closed her eyes and silently sensed around for a while before opening her eyes again and gently shaking her head. I can only feel some special power fluctuations in a particular range. I think the Yang family's group has been out of the range right now, and thus I can't identify their direction. As what you said, staying here means that we all get lost. Pan just shook his head and burst out laughing. This damn place doesn't even have the transfer formation to go back. Would we get stuck here forever? I don't want it either. Chao Jilan's face was indifferent. Although we don't know how big this place is, we can continue searching around and probably find out some unusual things. The one who has created this place couldn't just leave no trace. I need a little bit time. Being in the same place with Miss Chao is my honor. Panja eagerly said, his eyes slightly brightened. Chao Jilan did not reply and started searching for the unusual traces. A strange light flashed up again from between her beautiful eyes. What should we do now? Both He Qingman and Xia Kui were standing on a dune. There were the other 5 Earth real warriors of the evil wonderlands surrounding them. These 5 warriors, together with the other 2, were also lucky to be transferred to this place. The 5 warriors were besieging He Qingman and Xia Kui in silence, preventing the warriors of other groups from overhearing their conversation. Xia Kui coldly harumphed and replied with a somber face and cold eyes, "You ask me, and then I ask whom?" You weren't like that before. He Qingman was a bit upset. Her beautiful face looked like she wanted to cry. I remember that you have loved me a lot before. Why are you treating me like this now? Why? Xia Kui's look was cruel. You don't know. Not at all. Under Xia Kui's fierce gaze, He Qingman. She was startled, timorously stepped back, but still tried to show her stoutness. When we had arrived the Sky Sea, you insistently refused to come here. Since then, I figured out your innermost feelings that you are not heartfully with our evil wonderland. However, I still did not expect that you could recklessly act like this. The fight between you and Yan Shui inside the palace was just a game. Xia Kui suddenly shouted after finishing his last sentence. He Qingman's soft body trembled. Brother, you could recognize it. Yes. Xia Kui laughed coldly. Not only did I realize it, but I also knew that you did not even use the martial spirit. How much energy did you use? You think Chao Zhilan, Qi Yanqing, and Panja are all stupid? They just don't want to be nosy. If this is spread out, your honor and the evil Wonderland's reputation will be destroyed. I don't want people to say that we, the evil Wonderland, still have any relation with the Yang family. The relationship between Yang Shui and I have always been good. I could not kill him. He Qingman shook her head. Her eyes were red. This is war. You are not allowed to let your personal feelings disturb you. Xia Kuei's face was cruel and wicked. You did not use all of your energy on the last shot to defeat Shi Yan. You and Yang Shui might be close, but this Shi Yan, how come you still could not defeat him? I doubt if I should continue having you with us. Will it be a wrong decision or not? He Qingman gritted her teeth as she could not deny it. I can let go of what happened, pretending that I didn't see it. But if it happens again, don't blame me for being heartless. Xia Kuei coldly continued. Remember, the evil Wonderland is involved in this war. From now on, every one of the Yang family is our mortal enemies. It will never change. You and I are both outstanding warriors of the evil Wonderland. Everything we are doing now is for ourselves. Do you understand? He Qingman bowed her head and said nothing. You should think about it yourself. I've said what I should say. I hope you won't disappoint me next time. If it happens again, we are no more brother and sister, and I will be the first one who punishes you. Xia Kuei flipped his sleeves and left with a cold face. He considered the future of the evil Wonderland to be his. Catching and killing the Yang family were his compulsory oath. Anyway, with the importance of the evil Wonderland in the Kiara Sea, once the Yang family recovered its power and wanted to take revenge, the first ones they would kill were them. A stream of the red burning fires drew a beautiful curve. The flames sparkled everywhere. That fire halo moved faster and faster. Behind the red halo of firelight was a huge figure, which looked like a dead spirit and was as fast as lightning. He followed the halo of firelight and kept the distance of 10 meters from that halo all the time. While the earth flame was flying fast in the air, the supreme burning firepower uncontrollably spread out. Shi Yan also felt unbearable with that burning power. The 10-meter distance was the maximum that Shi Yan could bear, the limit he could do. If shortening the distance with the earth flame, that burning firepower would make him hardly breathe. Because the burning fires penetrated into the profound qi in his body, it proactively released the opposing forces to resist, which would consume a lot of his profound qi and exhaust his body very fast. Therefore, 10 meters was the most suitable distance for him to break through to the earth realm. Shi Yan felt that the forces inside his body had gone through an earth-shaking transformation. This change was not simply an increase in the number of the forces, but also an enhancement of his knowledge, his energy, his profound qi. Everything had jumped to the new realm. He could now skillfully control his profound qi. His soul consciousness seemed to be present in each flow of the profound qi. When his mind flickered, the profound qi from every vessel of his body would quickly spread out and transformed into a shape that he wanted. The profound qi stopped struggling and became easily controllable. As long as his mind could imagine and his spirit could take control, the profound qi would be able to condense and transform into many marvelous desired forms immediately, no matter if they were birds, trees, nunchakus, weapons, etc. The bird which was created by the profound qi could deliberately fly in the sky, plants and trees could be vivacious, weapons could be incredibly vigorous and firm. The earth realm was a process of clearly understanding the forces inside the body. In the beginning, the profound qi was only one of many energies inside his body. Now, the profound qi became an expansion of his body, a part of his body, the core of the power, and also the Holy Spirit on which he could rely. Is it still far? Shi Yan sent out the message while his body was quickly gliding on the sand. He suddenly stalled, took out some refined pills and swallowed them all. After this, he continued moving forward, but with the slower speed while both gliding and waiting for the pill's therapeutic effects to spread out all over his body. In the chasm battlefield, refined pills were the simplest and the most efficient way to restore the profound qi. Anyway, the sky and earth's spiritual auras here were extremely diluted. It should take 10 times longer to recover the profound chi here than in other areas. As soon as the earth flame realized Shiryan's speed was decreasing, it also slowed down, transmitting its happiness and eagerness. Is it very fast? Shiryan stopped and released his soul consciousness to search around carefully. His soul consciousness was like rippling waves which were hindered by this strange space. They could not move as comfortably as they were outside. The spreading speed of his soul consciousness was also slower several times. The covering range was also smaller dozens of times. Oh! There are traces of beings. Suddenly, the ambiguous living vibrations appeared from the remote area where his soul consciousness was exploring. These vibrations evidently belonged to the Earth Realm warriors. Shiryan's spirit was convulsive. His instinct told him that it was probably Yang Mu's group. Or, even if it wasn't Yang Mu, as long as they are adventurers, he still could exchange information, asking them where he was and how to get out of here. It was unknown how long and how far he had been following the earth flame in this area. He had doubts about this place and was lonely for so long. He wanted to talk to someone. You come back here first. Slow down a little bit. I will go over to see some people. Shiryan sent out a message. The earth flame twisted involuntarily and slowly got into the blood vein ring afterward. The earth flame was the heaven flame, which was incredibly powerful, but it's still not evolutional yet. Even if it finished the evolution, there were still many other existences that could dominate it. Otherwise, the ice-cold flame shouldn't have been imprisoned many times. There were many miraculous, precious treasures in this world which prevented the heaven flame from fleeing. For example, he could take advantage of the soul-gathering pearl to make the soul of that demon master separate from the body. There were also some other miraculous treasures which could capture and confine the heaven flames. Therefore, the earth flame was safe when staying inside the blood vein ring. After the earth flame had gone inside the blood vein ring, Shiryan retrieved his soul consciousness that he had released. He then followed the guiding direction of his soul consciousness and kept moving toward the target. After half an hour, Shiryan quickly moved behind a dune all of a sudden. He extruded his head out of the dune while squinting and looking toward some people in the distance who were approaching to where he was now. Shiryan could easily see people coming from behind the dune. However, as the distance was far and he only extruded his head out, it is hard to see things. Shiryan was not hasty and still kept waiting. Finally, he recognized a beautiful figure in a firing red armor among those people. Although he couldn't see her appearance, he was confident that prominent appealing body was He Ching Man. After having realized He Ching Man, Shiryan fixed his eyes on the other people behind her. He then recognized Xia Kuei according to his old memory. After attentively watching for a long time as well as releasing his soul consciousness once again, he could identify Chao Zhilan, Panja, Gu Linglong, Chu Yanqing, those who were the famous outstanding warriors on the combat list. They did not accompany Xia Kuei's group. His soul consciousness was like the heaven eyes which helped him gradually realize the real abilities of that group of people. Shiryan slowly retracted his head, activated the finger gun to bury himself under the dune. He slowed down his breaths and started to hide all of his body's auras. There were total 11 Earth Realm warriors, including Xia Kuei and He Ching Man, and no third sky of the Earth Realm warrior. I can kill them. Chapter 234, Defeat You. Chapter 234, Defeat You. The sky above the endlessly immense desert was red. It was sweltering. A line of 11 warriors was slowly moving in the scorching desert. Xia Kuei was leading while He Ching Man lagged far behind from him. The warriors of the evil wonderland gathered around Xia Kuei, ignoring He Ching Man. As they seemed to know who was going to be the future master of the evil wonderland, they decided to follow Xia Kuei after the dispute between Xia Kuei and He Ching Man without making any attempts in mediating the conflict between Xia Kuei and He Ching Man. He Ching Man with her appealing body was far behind alone. Her gorgeous face looked worried. Remember, in the fight with the Yangs this time, if He Ching Man continues not using her full power, you guys can detain her so that she won't be our encumbrance. While leading with a cold and gloomy face, Xia Kuei lowered his voice, commanding the following warriors of the evil wonderland. "Yes, sir." They nodded and quietly looked at He Qingman far behind with meaningful eyes. He Qingman's beautiful eyes had a dull look. She apparently knew that her fellows kept their watchful eyes on her, but she couldn't do anything. At this time, she regretted not leaving the chasm battlefield and returning to the Kiara Sea sooner. She did not want to be part of this anymore. However, no one could find a way back. Going back alone without being sure about the direction was dumb. Although she was in a dead-end situation and knew that Xia Kuei and his fellows wouldn't be nice to her, she had no choice but follow them. A patrol of 11 warriors was moving forward to a dune. 5 warriors of the evil wonderland were closely following Xia Kuei and considered Xia Kuei's command as their mission. The other warriors who belonged to the Penglai Divine Land and the Heaven Lake Divine Land did not talk too much either. They silently followed Xia Kuei, hoping that Xia Kuei would help them find their other fellows and a way to get out of this devilish desert. Boom boom. Suddenly, a big explosive sound came up from the dune in front of them. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. A screeching tornado suddenly appeared and quickly approached them. Golden sand engulfed the entire sky. 6 massive whirls completely covered this area. No one could see anything in this thick golden sand mist. A warrior was pulled into the howling tornado and was twisted by the golden sand without being able to move. "Who is it?" Xia Kuei shouted. A small long snow sword instantly emerged from his wrist. The hilt of the sword suddenly generated a dazzling yellow halo. As soon as Xia Kuei launched a slash, many different points of light spread out from the inside that dazzling golden halo, forming a beautiful curve, going into the dune in front of him. Bang! A figure emerged from the dune all of a sudden and quickly dashed towards Xia Kuei, crossing those yellow lights. "Shiryen!" Xia Kuei's face slightly changed. He suddenly burst out laughing coldly and said, "It's good that you are here. I was worried I could not find you. You voluntarily come out. You really want to die." Right after finishing his words, Xia Kuei's body slightly leaped up, retreated into the dune and disappeared without a trace. After Xia Kuei's disappearance, another warrior was tightly tied up by the tornado that was formed by the gravitational field in the desert. The convoluted force in this field did not allow that warrior to move. He could only scream out from the inside of that tornado while the profound chi speed in his body was getting slower as well. The screech of the howling wind came up. He Qingman, who lagged far behind, also lunged towards Shiryen like a strong wind. They were full of complicated emotions in He Qingman's eyes. However, she wasn't hesitant to launch the attacks toward Shiryen. As soon as her appealing body leaped up, many sharp wind blades plunged out and created strange screechy sounds in the air. At the same time, Xia Kuei extruded his head out of the dune where he was hiding. His snow sword discharged a dazzling yellow streak of light. An earth dragon made of golden sand suddenly flew out from the dune. Many golden sand walls also extruded next to Shiryen. "Shiryen, my martial spirit can control soils and sand. Killing you here is as easy as turning my hand over." Xia Kuei coldly smiled and continued, "You should have died sooner. Who are you to have Xian Yan's attention? Only I, who is the future master of the evil wonderland, deserve to have a beautiful lady like Xian Yan. You don't deserve her." Shiryen was standing motionlessly with a cold face in the middle of the golden sand. His look was cold-hearted. He Qingman's wind blades darted towards Shiryen, striking his face. However, he kept standing motionlessly. After all of the wind blades had pierced through Shiryen's body, He Qingman realized that they had shot his shadow only. Xia Kuei's eyes shrank with fear. He recognized that his golden sand earth dragon, together with those walls, had made Shiryen's shadow to be the attacking target. The real Shiryen had already stayed away to avoid the attack. "I wanted to fight with Xia Kuei only right inside this dune. You should not be involved." After Shiryen raised his eyebrows and flickered his consciousness, an invisible gravitational field swept over from his right and instantly detained He Qingman's sexy body. At the same time, another gravitational field silently approached Xia Kuei and also tightly tied him up all of a sudden without giving him time to take precautions. Activating the electric shift, Shiryan plunged to Xie Kuei as fast as the lightning. As soon as my legs touch the ground, this thing of yours doesn't affect me. Xie Kuei frigidly laughed while his body went back into the dune again in a blink, escaping from the confinement of the gravitational field. Xie Kuei had two kinds of martial arts, the tree spiritual martial and the earth spiritual martial. As long as his two legs remained on the ground, he could comfortably hide inside the earth. It was not easy to defeat him except that one was capable of killing him after one strike only. Although Xie Kuei had already disappeared into the sand, his voice still came up from underneath. Shiryan, I will cut your head off. I will keep it until I see Xine Yen again. I will take your head and give it to her. Is it interesting? Shiryan was standing on the dune with an ignorant face while quietly urging his negative forces. Right after the three big demon mirages which were condensed by the negative forces suddenly appeared, they immediately dashed towards the warriors who had been tied up by the tornadoes. Shiryan stood still on the spot, closed his eyes, seeming to wait for something. Out of Shiryan's expectation, Xie Kuei didn't care to save his fellows who had been in the confinement of the gravitational field. Instead, he still stayed hidden inside the dune and quickly moved to Shiryan's feet in silence. A cruel smile beamed out from the corner of his mouth. A harsh light flashed up and instantly disappeared in his eyes. No matter how Xie Kuei could imagine, he would never believe that Shiryan had successfully formed the Sea of Consciousness. In a particular range, no living movements could escape from the vision of his soul consciousness. Xie Kuei kept himself completely hidden inside the dune without exposing any part of his body. Therefore, it wasn't easy for Shiryan to catch and kill him, although Shiryan could identify his location. However, if Xie Kuei wanted to attack Shiryan, he had to expose himself, and this was a good chance for Shiryan. Boom, boom, boom. A big sound reverberated right under Shiryan's feet. A bunch of earth clubs emerged from underneath the sand. Shiryan's body kept swaying and swinging in the middle of those earth clubs and then suddenly cast out toward one direction. Inside the dune, Xie Kuei quickly moved to the place where Shiryan would land and patiently awaited. As soon as Shiryan descended, he would instantly burst through the sand and launch one single powerful strike to kill him. While Shiryan was still in the air, many energetic seals, one after one, were condensed and released from between his two hands. The life seals and death seals had already stacked over each other even before his feet touched the ground. The life and death seal pounded straight down on the ground. Boom. A terrified explosive sound came up from the place where Shiryan was going to land. When the explosion resounded, a figure was knocked straight out from inside the dune. Even that snow sword was also struck away that figure's hand by the great life and death seal. After Shiryan had landed, he stretched out his hands grabbing the hilt of Xie Kuei's sword, and then activated the electric shift dashing towards Xie Kuei like an electrical current. The corners of Xie Kuei's mouth were full of blood. After having been hit by one full power strike of the life and death seal, his body was injured. If there wasn't the protection of the earth armor, his body system should have had completely crushed into ashes by this life and death seal. Seeing Shiryan approaching as fast as the lightning, Xie Kuei hurriedly used his old trick going back inside the dune. As soon as one of his feet touched the ground, Shiryan quickly glided over and lifted his left foot, stepping on Xie Kuei's right foot. Xie Kuei felt extremely painful on his right foot before he was about to disappear underneath the sand. Although he still tried to hide into the sand, he now realized that the sword had pierced through his other foot. Run? You still want to run? Shiryan's eyes looked cruel, and his face was brutal. He was staring at Xie Kuei while coldly laughing. You. Xie Kuei's face dramatically changed. Shiryan was still firmly stepping on his left foot. The sword pierced through Shiryan's left foot first and then through Xie Kuei's right foot. Their left and right feet both stuck together. To prevent Xie Kuei from hiding into the sand, Shiryan had daringly speared the sword through his right foot. Boom, boom. As their feet had been pierced through together, Xie Kuei and Shiryan were now in the face-to-face position. The forces inside their bodies furiously churned up, and their martial techniques were ready to be launched. A drastic fight was about to happen. With one foot being tightly speared through, the other foot being heavily stepped on by Yan's foot, Xiaokui had no way to make any moves. At the same time, Yan's petrification martial spirit started to be activated. Yan's entire body became as hard as iron. The second sky of rampage appeared once again. The number of forces inside his body was doubled just in a blink. Boom. Energetic seals violently exploded between Yan and Xiaokui. Faint yellow lights emitted around Xiaokui's body while his two hands formed an invisible seal which created miraculous rippling waves outside his chest to protect himself from Yan's attack. Cut my head off. Yan displayed his fierce look while freely releasing the tremendous power of the second sky of rampage. The life seals and death seals were constantly striking Xiaokui's chest and destroying all of Xiaokui's opposing forces. Yan's petrification martial spirit, his refinement body, and his body's sturdiness were some things that Xiaokui could have never acquired. In the second sky of rampage state, the forces that Yan could gather was far more than that inside Xiaokui's body. Therefore, in the frontal fight like this, Xiaokui was the only one who was crushed and destroyed as he had no remaining defensive power. Explode! Yan crazily shouted. The life seals and death seals stacked up and struck Xiaokui's head altogether. Xiaokui's head exploded after the strike. Skull and blood scattered everywhere. He died right away. Chapter 235, Today is better than before. Chapter 235, Today was better than before. When Xiaokui's head exploded, a flock of warriors inside those tornadoes was also swallowed up and devoured by the three demon mirages. After gathering the negative feelings, the three demon mirages inside the gravitational field could submerge those Earth Realm warriors in the craziness after only one strike and then easily took their lives. The ability of these Earth Realm warriors of the Kiara Sea was no exceptional. They did not have the martial spirits nor secret weapons nor peculiar defensive forces, and the gravitational field was also confining them. They were just like a chamois waiting for being butchered. Xiaokui's soft body without the head fell. A stream of spiritual power flowed out and went into Yan's meridians. Swoosh! While one of his hands grabbed the big snow-white sword and drew it out from his foot, Yan looked at Xiaokui's body without the head and cruelly said with a sarcastic tone, "You dared to fight hand-to-hand with me. You deserve to have a terrible death like this." With the petrification martial spirit and the immortal martial spirit continually being practiced and tempered, the sturdiness of Yan's body was not something that other warriors could ever imagine. None of the same-level warriors could defeat Yan in a hand-to-hand fight. With the effect of the immortal martial spirit, his pierced foot started recovering little by little. Yan urged the electric shift again. He went into the tornadoes, standing inside them. His mystery martial spirit absorbed all the spiritual powers which were massively flowing out from the dead warriors' corpses. The gravitational field which was confining Qingman shrank all of a sudden. As the golden sand had blocked her vision, she didn't know what had happened. Thus, as soon as she saw Yan, she instantly launched the attacks again. Enough! Yan frowned and shouted. Everyone is dead. You still want to fight? Everyone is dead? Qingman's beautiful eyes were confused. Where is my brother? You are not capable of defeating him. His realm is higher than yours. He can also easily hide into the sand. You are not his opponent. Are you talking about Xiaokui? Yan pointed at the body without the head in the distance. He is over there. Except for you and me, there is no one alive here. Qingman was frightened. Her prominent body quickly flew to Xiaokui's body. Ah! Qingman terrifyingly screamed out loud with fear. She dazedly stood beside Xiaokui's corpse, covering her mouth. Her beautiful eyes were full of sadness. She lowered her voice and said, "He is dead. Everyone is dead." The future hope of the evil wonderland, the pride of being the future master of the next generation has gone just like this. Qingman was stunned as if she was facing a fatal attack. She mumbled to herself with her shocked face. Yan wasn't in a hurry to leave yet. Instead, he stood motionlessly, releasing his soul consciousness to sense the living movements around. Yan didn't know that Xie Kuei and He Qingman had separated from Chao Zilan before arriving here. He had thought that Chao Zilan's fellows were nearby. In this fight, Yan had killed everyone except for He Qingman, but he had also consumed a lot of his power. Although he was still in the second sky of rampage state, he would quickly exhaust when the counterattack spread out. If Chao Zilan was nearby, he had to immediately retreat as he couldn't continue fighting with his current status. He closed his eyes, released his soul consciousness, and silently sensed around for a while. After being certain that there were no living movements, he felt assured and slowly walked to He Qingman. Where are other people? Who? He Qingman lifted her head up, bewilderedly looked at Yan with a dark face. Where are Chao Zilan and Panja? Yan asked again. I don't know. He Qingman shook her head. We were pushed out from that ancient formation and were separated. You are the first one we met since then. Yan contemplated for a while before calmly speaking, okay, I know. See you again next time. Where are you going? He Qingman shouted. I don't know. Yan stopped for a while, looking at her. Our standpoints are conflicting. You better return to the Kiara Sea. Being alone in the chasm battlefield is very dangerous. You've killed my brother. I have to avenge him. He Qingman sighed. You've killed him. You can also take my life. Yan, I couldn't imagine how come your power could have improved that much in such a short time. I remember that when you were in the Black Rock Island, your cultivation base was only the second sky of the disaster realm. If Yangmu didn't save you that time, maybe you. Yan contemplated without saying a word. All of them are dead. I am the only one surviving. Tell me, what others would say when they see me later? He Qingman revealed a sad smile. Yan shook his head and released a sigh. You should not go to the chasm battlefield. I did not want to go there either. He Qingman gently shook her head and reluctantly said, it was my master's command. If I didn't go, it meant I didn't obey the order. Not only would I have troubles, but the He family would also be involved. You stand in between, it was not easy. Yan's face was astounded. Maybe Yanmu's fellows are not here. Perhaps I am alone in this place. Your group of pursuers might be on the way to come here. Currently, no one knows the way out of this immense desert, or no clues of where to search. We still should separate soon. If others find you being with me at the same place, I am afraid it is not good for you. Even if they don't see you and me at the same location, it is still uncomfortable to face them. He Qingman miserably smiled. When we were outside the palace, Chao Zilan and Panja already recognized the fake fight between Yang Shui and me. If my brother and my fellows were still alive, they would have said nothing. But now I am alone. I don't know how those guys will treat me. Yan knitted his brows in silence. He suddenly said after a while, anyway, because you and they are allies, they may provoke you, but they will not kill you. Don't worry, having regard for Yang Shui and Xan Yan, I will not harm you if I see you next time. I need to go now. Take care of yourself. After speaking, Yan turned around and quickly left without letting He Qingman have a chance to say anything more. After Yan had absorbed all of the powers of total 11 warriors, including Xie Kuei, his meridians currently started refining, and powerful negative feelings also started spreading out. Perhaps he would be immersed in the craziness and lose his consciousness again. Once losing his consciousness, he only had two options, either finding a woman to give vent or binding himself and suffering the pain alone. The relationship among He Qingman, Yang Shui, and Xia Xinyan was superb. Because of Yang Shui, He Qingman had been mistrusted and already sacrificed a lot. Yan couldn't consider her the target to whom he would give vent. Moreover, as He Qingman belonged to the evil wonderland, he could not completely trust her. He couldn't let himself be unconscious next to that lady. Very dangerous. Leaving He Qingman, Yan quickly moved towards the hottest direction in the desert as fast as the lightning. While moving forward in the desert, he could apparently feel that the pain on his foot was fading away, and the wound was healing little by little. Inside his meridians, the spiritual chi of Xie Kuei's fellows was refining rapidly. Different kinds of negative feelings started spreading out. Yan was trying to restrain himself. It was unknown whether because he was entering the Earth realm or because his nerves were getting stronger that the negative feelings which were spreading out from his meridians still didn't drive him crazy yet. It was still bearable. Except for the heavy breaths, the reddened face, and a little pain on his head, the negative feelings did not pull him into the endlessly deep abyss nor made him unconscious this time. A long time after that, familiar peculiar forces spread out from inside his meridians. 720 meridians in his entire body altogether released the energy that eased his mind. With this energy moving inside the body, he felt comfortably warm as if he was soaking in a hot spring. This time, the petrification martial spirit and the immortal martial spirit didn't take those peculiar forces. Instead, all of those forces torrentially poured into his heart. The star martial spirit. Shurian's pupils shrank. He couldn't help but curse and immediately used his mind to control these peculiar forces and tension in changing the direction. Regretfully, before he could do something, his heart had already released a powerful attraction force to absorb the strange powers completely. He suddenly stopped. Gritting his teeth, Shurian silently sensed his body for a while. He then discovered that even though more and more starlights appeared in his heart, there wasn't any transformation occurring. The star martial spirit in his heart couldn't gather the star powers, and he didn't know how to urge the star martial spirit either. Thus, the peculiar forces pouring into his heart was such a waste. Anyway, before he could obtain the controlling method related to the star martial spirit of the Three God sect, the star martial spirit was helpless in increasing his forces. Whoosh! After seeing no one beside Shurian, the earth flame flew out from the blood vein ring again without Shurian's command. Turning into a dazzling flame, the earth flame started leading the way, eagerly flying toward the hottest direction in this desert. Shurian reluctantly followed it. He had no target nor direction to seek in this desert. Therefore, following the earth flame was not a bad choice anyway. The earth flame might lead to an unknown way out. Perhaps the area that excited the earth flame could have something which also surprised him. With this thought in his mind, Shurian followed the earth flame in silence, although he didn't know what was awaiting him. Time quickly passed. He didn't know how long he had been following the earth flame in this desert, but he had already taken the refined pills 3 times because of his profound chi being dried up. He had used all of his profound chi in moving in this desert, and he also had to replenish it 3 times. Shurian guessed he could have been going around in this desert for more than half a month. This strange place had neither the sun nor the moon nor the star nor the darkness, except for the glowing red sky. After a long journey, he had shortened the distance between him and the hottest point. The earth flame was getting more excited. Shurian could even feel its soul shivering. However, Shurian was getting weaker. The closer he got to the hottest point, the more uncomfortable he could feel. Under the terrifying heat, even though the heaven flames had tempered his body, he still had to use more of his profound chi to resist. After having kept running like this for another while, when he nearly couldn't sustain anymore, the earth flame joyfully shouted eventually. Shurian saw the place for which the earth flame had been longing. Chapter 236. The Sun-Refined Spirit. Chapter 236. The Sun-Refined Spirit. A significant angular meteorite plugged in the desert. That meteorite was generating beautiful lights. The whole object was glowing red, emitting terrifying sun's burning fires. The sunlight was too robust and dazzling that people could hardly open their eyes. The meteorite was like a small mountain. The majority of it was buried deep inside the dune, and only 1/3 of it exposed. Blinding red light was discharging from the meteorite, and its scorching firepower engulfed the entire area. The water inside Shurian's body had evaporated a lot. If an ordinary person came here, that person would be burnt and quickly become a desiccated corpse in only around 1 hour. Although Shurian had gone through the annealing process of the earth flame many times, he still could feel the severe pressure which made him hardly breathe when facing this terrifying heating power of this meteorite. There was a mysterious movement coming out from inside the meteorite. While watching the meteorite from a distance, Shurian immediately felt that his sea of consciousness was agitated nonstop. As he was affected by the strange power inside the meteorite, he was nearly unable to control himself, heading into that meteorite. Shiryen believed that once he came closer to the meteorite, as soon as his body slightly touched the burning fires next to the meteorite, he would immediately turn into ashes. Not to mention the Earth Realm warriors, even the body of a God Realm master was not sure to remain intact under that meteorite's burning fires. Shiryen did not dare to take a risk, he just silently watched the huge meteorite from a distance. The 1,000-year Earth flame had soon flown out. When he was still startled, the Earth flame headed towards the meteorite and disappeared into it. Shiryen was surprised. When he tried to contact with the Earth flame, he realized that once he released his soul consciousness, the meteorite instantly emitted a terrifying power that violently stirred up his sea of consciousness, forcing him to retreat. How come? The ice-cold flame's message from the blood vein ring suddenly came out. It had been a long time since the ice-cold flame had communicated with him. As soon as it appeared, it shot out a series of icy power. The icy power quickly surged up in Shiryen's body, spreading out to every corner of his body. Under the effect of the icy power, Shiryen's emotion and reckless body soon stabilized. Oh! You can release powers. Yeah, this devilish ring knows you are in trouble, so it has loosened its restraint a little bit. The ice-cold flame replied and kept silent again. It was seemingly releasing its spiritual power to observe around. Not long after that, the ice-cold flame sent out a surprising feeling. The sun-refined spirit. What? Shiryen was astonished. What did you say? That red meteorite is the sun-refined spirit from the center of the sun. It is the precious heat of the universe, the ice-cold flame explained. The sun-refined spirit can only be found in the center of the sun. It is the core firepower of the sun. As you have practiced some heating techniques, if you can have the sun-refined spirit, your power will increase immensely. Is it useful for the 1,000-year Earth flame? Not only useful. This sun-refined spirit is enough for it to have a quick breakthrough to a soul completion and a strong firepower which is not less than mine. Once the Earth flame absorbed the sun-refined flames in the sun-refined spirit and fused with its burning fires, its living form will immediately change. Shiryen was panicked. What? Anything else? The ice-cold flame hesitated a bit before continuing. There seems to be something hidden inside the sun-refined spirit. It has an extremely violent vibration which was as strong as the powerful soul attack of a God Realm master. There is something inside? Shiryen got surprised with his eyes and mouth wide opened. The sun-refined spirit is obviously from the sun in the sky. How come there is something inside? Would it come from the sun? It is not necessary from the sun. The ice-cold flame contemplated for a while. According to the legend, warriors who reach the true God realm can be considered gods. They have a superpower that can destroy the earth. Their bodies can break all the restraints in the world and fly out to the sky. It means the true God realm warriors can go to the sun. Go to the sun? Shiryen's eyes brightened. According to you, although the thing inside the sun-refined spirit is not from the sun, it is still in the hands of the true God realm warriors. Yes, that's what I meant. Shiryen didn't say anything more. From 100 meters far away, staring at that sun-refined spirit which was releasing dazzling burning fires and feeling his eyes hurt, Shiryen slowly closed his eyes and mumbled to himself, "Is it impossible to come closer?" Although the earth flame had tempered his body and there was a lot of burning fire's power of the earth flame inside his body, he still hardly endured the scorching sun-refined flames surrounding the sun-refined spirit. From 100 meters away from the sun-refined spirit, he could feel his body blistering hot already. If he reached the sun-refined spirit, perhaps he would be burned to ashes. "Do you want to come closer?" The ice-cold flame seemed to know his intention and asked. "With your ability alone, you are unable to come closer. However, with my help, it is still possible." "What are you waiting for then?" Shiryen quietly shouted. Right after that, he could immediately feel the freezing icy power. Under the icy power, his body got frozen in just a blink. A solid ice spread out his entire body. It was like an ice armor wrapping him around. Under the ice shield's protection, Shiryen realized that the heat from the sun-refined spirit had disappeared. He didn't have the feeling that his body was burning anymore. Thump, thump, thump. With the ice armor, Shiryen was more daring, moving step by step towards the sun-refined spirit. However, he still didn't dare to go too fast. 50 meters. 30 meters. 20 meters. 10 meters, Shiryen suddenly stopped. From 10 meters away, a bunch of scorching sun-refined flames flew around the sun-refined spirit without dispersing. The sun-refined spirit was very close to him now. If he moved a little more, he could reach it, however, but he didn't know what was going to happen. You should not come closer. That is enough. The ice-cold flame warned him. Close your eyes as well. You will be blind if you keep staring at it for a long time. Shiryen stammered in fear and hurried to close his eyes. From the distance of 10 meters, he wanted to release his soul consciousness to communicate with the earth flame again. If you don't want to be attacked by the sun-refined spirit, you better not release the soul consciousness. Once your soul consciousness is released, the thing inside that will immediately realize and attack it. I've also recognized that the forces discharging from inside the sun-refined spirit can damage your soul much more terribly than I can. In other words, you are not able to resist it. Shiryen immediately stopped releasing his soul consciousness after being warned by the ice-cold flame. So, what should we do now? We can do nothing except for waiting for the earth flame. Only the earth flame is not affected by the sun-refined spirit. The earth flame's living form is unique. Since it dares to go closer, it is probably not afraid of the thing inside. Wait for the earth flame to come back or until it proactively contacts you. Except for that, don't do anything. As Shiryen could do nothing, he closed his eyes, standing motionlessly 10 meters away from the sun-refined spirit and waiting. He did not dare to release his soul consciousness either, only used his body to feel the scorching sun power from the sun-refined spirit. Oh! Many streams of burning sun power from inside the sun-refined spirit were rolling towards Shiryen. Seeming to be under the control of something, they quietly went into Shiryen's chest and poured into Shiryen's heart. After having received the sun power, his heart suddenly projected a red light. The starlights above his heart started brightening little by little and seemed to begin moving around above his heart as if it was some miraculous, unpredictable formation that was completely out of Shiryen's expectation. This? The ice-cold flame was extremely astonished. The icy power inside the blood vein ring became weakened. Many sun powers went into Shiryen's chest and quickly poured into Shiryen's heart, which might result in some transformation inside his heart. The burning fire's power was getting more intense while his heart was able to receive more and more burning fire's powers, becoming incredibly dazzling. Blinding sunlights from Shiryen's heart were suddenly shot out. Shiryen instantly became a light generator. His entire body generated many powerful lights. What's happening? The ice-cold flame didn't seem to understand anything. It hurriedly communicated with Shiryen. Why can your heart absorb sunlights? The star martial spirit, I got it. The sun is also a star. The sun power is also considered as the power of stars. It should be it. While the sun power kept rolling into his heart, Shiryen felt as if he was soaking in a boiling oil pot. This kind of pain was indescribable. That was why he couldn't even communicate with the ice-cold flame. He could only passively suffer the pain, letting the sun power flow into his heart. A bunch of mysterious whorls appeared on his chest at this moment. This peculiar black formula belonged to the Three Gods sect and started activating. The existence of these three whorls attracted more and more sun powers. They kept pouring into his heart with a speed that was getting crazily faster and faster. Boom! His body suddenly burst into flame. The scorching solar refined flame started burning inside his body. The ice-cold flame hardly communicated with Shiryen. It knew that if it let the sun powers burn Shiryen to ashes, Shiryen's soul would never be liberated, and it would obviously deadly vanish in the end. If Shiryen died, the blood vein ring would have no master anymore. Thus, it would be confined forever, which was not the result that the ice-cold flame wanted to see. The heaven icy power was getting denser and suddenly spread out from the blood vein ring. The ice-cold flame quickly released its power. It didn't regret to use the billion-year-trained icy power to help Shiryen resist the solar-refined flame inside his body. Thanks to a right amount of the icy power that had absorbed into Shiryen's body, the solar-refined flames have immediately neutralized afterward. One of Shiryen's eyes shot out the burning fires, and the other projected the icy power. His entire body entered an extremely strange state. Chapter 237, An Extraordinary Treasure. Chapter 237, An Extraordinary Treasure. The sun-refined spirit inside the dune continuously shot out stronger sun powers. Some aura seemed to be drawing the solar-refined flames, creating a state of chaos. 10 meters away from the sun-refined spirit, the flames were wrapping around a big and sturdy body which was enduring the terrifying fight between the sun power and the icy power. At this moment, the burning strength of the solar-refined flame and the icy power of the ice-cold flame were battling inside his body, causing his body to fall into the flame-ice collision state. His body changed from being freezingly chilled to uncomfortable burning just in a second. His sea of consciousness also became chaotic. A lot of negative feelings from his meridians spread out uncontrollably. Shiryen did not know what was going on. He could only passively suffer everything. The struggle between the solar-refined flame and the ice-cold flame was still taking place inside his body. While these two powers continued attacking each other, his heart was still absorbing the sun powers from the sun-refined spirit. Shiryen's sea of consciousness was a little chaotic. His conscious also became ambiguous. Shiryen gradually slipped into the unconsciousness without knowing who he was. Meanwhile, the negative feelings also started diffusing inside his body. Different kinds of negative feelings became rebellious, stirring up in his head, making him almost lose himself. Under the red clouds, a big figure with full of burning fires and 2 red eyes raised his head up to the sky and roared out loud as if he wanted to destroy the universe. Horrible scream hovered around the desert and could be heard from more than 10 miles away. Who is screaming? In the desert, a line of warriors was lurching aimlessly. They all looked extremely exhausted. A girl with an elegant body was leading this group. Her eyebrows suddenly slammed together while she quickly turned around and looked toward the direction of the scream. After a while, she shouted out loud, "Gu Xiaomei, I think the guy who is screaming should be your enemy." Chao Jilan's beautiful face was very strange. This group was Chao Jilan, Panja, Gu Linglong, and Chu Yanqing. In the beginning, they had separated, but they had found each other again during the time going around in the desert. After having seen each other again, they voluntarily gathered and stayed together in this desert to search for the Yang family's warriors. However, no matter how hard they had searched, how many times Chao Jilan had used her spirit god martial spirit, they were still like the blinds in this desert, impossible to find a way out. Currently, even Chao Jilan was also a little unconscious. While they were all exhausted and didn't know what to do, they suddenly heard a terrifying scream. Chao Jilan's sharp sense power could immediately identify the person from that scream. Thus, they instantly became excited again. "Ha ha ha, we finally identified the target." Gu Linglong urged, "What are we waiting for then? We should kill him right away." Panja smiled, nodded his head, and said, "We have been walking for a long time and been in this desert for almost half a year. The sooner we kill the Yangs, the sooner we can get out of here." "Get out of here soon?" Chao Jilan laughed and glanced at Panja. "I don't know what miraculous solution do you have to get us out of here. I think that guy is the key point. He should be the first one who came here. He probably knows the way out." Panja scratched his head, embarrassedly said with a faint smile, "It is not right. Isn't it that we already have Miss Chao? I believe that relying on Miss Chao's spirit god martial spirit, we will certainly find out the way to get out of this desert sooner or later." "I don't believe so." Chao Jilan shook her head. Her face became serious. "Shiryan's direction is scorching. I don't think everyone can adapt to that hot temperature. If I want to go there, I have to use my secret treasure. You yourselves should carefully consider it." Everyone's face changed immediately. After a short pause, Gu Linglong and other people slightly nodded their heads and then turned around to remind their fellows to be careful and not to freely move forward to avoid being killed by the hot burning fires. After having assigned their fellows, Panja, Gu Linglong, Chu Yanqing caught up with Chao Zhilan and quickly moved towards Shiyan's direction. After a while, the four people of Chao Zhilan, Gu Linglong, Chu Yanqing, and Panja appeared at the distance of 500 meters away from the sun-refined spirit. From 500 meters away, because of the great and dazzling sunlight of the sun-refined spirit, the four of them could neither see Shiyan nor know what was going on over there. The other warriors did not dare to follow them anymore. Under the scorching power of the sun, even some third sky of the Earth Realm warriors could not stand the heat and stopped far away. The reason that the four people of Chao Zhilan, Gu Linglong, Chu Yanqing, and Panja dared to come closer was that they were the outstanding future masters in the Endless Sea. Not only had they cultivated the special martial techniques, but they also had many secret treasures. Thanks to those secret treasures and the mystery martial spirit, they were able to stand the heat at the distance of 500 meters from the sun-refined spirit. However, even though they had brought some treasure weapons, they could only watch from a distance of 500 meters because their bodies had not been tempered by the heaven flames. Shiyan, on the contrary, could stand in the distance of 100 meters from the sun-refined spirit and be not worried to be burnt by the sun-refined flame even without the support of the ice-cold flame's icy power. "I cannot open my eyes." Gu Linglong screamed out loud in fear. What is that place after all? It was like a small dazzling sun. "I can't see anything, don't dare to look either." "Don't open your eyes." Chao Zhilan couldn't help shouting. This can only be the sun-refined spirit. The sun-refined spirit in the center of the sun. Ordinary eyes will be blind if looking at that sunlight. The sun-refined spirit. Panja panicked. If the three gods sex people come here, will they be crazily excited to see the sun-refined spirit? Regretfully, the three gods sect is busy fighting with the dark dwellers right now. They didn't join us to fight with the Yang family this time. This is their mistake. If the three god sect's warriors came here with their sun martial spirits, and they found out the sun-refined spirit here, their sun martial spirits would have reached to the terrifying level. Chu Yanqing slowly closed her eyes, being unable to stand the heat anymore. Chao Zhilan did not utter a word. She just silently released her spirit god martial spirit, wanting to explore the situation over there. However, as soon as she released her spirit god martial spirit, she immediately realized that the sun-refined spirit launched a strong flow of soul vibration, forming a great soul attack chasing Chao Zhilan's spirit god martial spirit and going into her head. Tui. Chao Zhilan could help but spit a mouthful blood. Her beautiful body strenuously moved backward a few steps. She shouted with her red face, "Do not release any spiritual power. There is something strange inside the sun-refined spirit." Tui. Panja and Gu Linglong also spat out a mouthful blood, staggeringly stepped backward with clumsy faces. Chu Yanqing was panic, retreating her power timely. Just 1 second late, Panja and Gu Linglong already got severely injured. As soon as they had released the spiritual forces, the strange thing inside the sun-refined spirit had instantly attacked them. Be careful. Do not release any of your spiritual powers at all cost. Do not continuously open your eyes. Only peep at it and immediately close your eyes to avoid being blinded by the sunlight. Chao Zhilan hastened to remind them. Not good. Chu Yanqing screamed out all of a sudden. What happens? Panja quickly asked. Sure Yen is coming. Chu Yanqing stepped backward with fear. His body is full of burning fires as well as some strange icy power. What had happened after all? What? Chao Zhilan was terrified. She couldn't help but open her eyes. In their sight, the dazzling sunlight shone on a powerful and imposing figure who were quickly approaching them. That figure's body shot out 2 kinds of red burning fires and dark blue burning fires. The red burning fires were scalding while the dark blue burning fires were freezing. These 2 types of burning fires spread out all over the body, seeming still to be in a drastic fight. However, he looked very comfortable with those two kinds of fires around his body. He was dashing towards other people like lightning. His speed was getting faster and faster. Nobody knew why a bunch of these sun-refined flames seemed to be attracted to his body. Although he was lunging very quickly, these flames still closely followed him. The earth-shaking burning fire's power came up as if it had to burn the whole world into ashes. Until the moment that the two eyes were painful, Chao Ji-lan realized that she could not stand it anymore. She quickly turned around without hesitation, fleeing with the highest speed. Retreat! Panja had been waiting for her to say something, but he realized Chao Ji-lan had already disappeared in a blink. His handsome face slightly changed. He did not dare to say further and staggeringly followed Chao Ji-lan, trying to escape from this place. Xu Yanqing and Gu Linglong still wanted to stay and fight. However, as seeing Chao Ji-lan, who ranked at the top of the combat list, running away, they felt unsafe and also quickly followed he and Panja. Porch. At the same time, a 2-meter-long, half-meter-wide red sword like a burning flame suddenly flew out from inside the sun-refined spirit. There were full of ancient symbols on this giant glowing red sword. There was also a red eye on the blade. As soon as the sword flew out, the red eye quickly projected devilish red lights. A malicious spiritual vibration instantly spread out from the red sword. This brutal vibration was like a deadly tornado wiping out all the beings as if it wanted to deprive all of the being lives. That huge figure was crazily chasing after Chao Ji-lan and Panja. When the sword spread out the malicious spiritual vibration, Shiryen suddenly stopped. His eyes became bewildered. It was unknown when the blood vein ring on his finger had shot out the red light, which matched the bloody color of the light radiating from the sword. They were surprisingly alike. Chapter 238, Absorption. Chapter 238, Absorption. In the middle of the desert, the devilish spiritual vibration spread out everywhere from the gigantic sword, like surging waves massively rolling towards Panja and others. The sun-refined flames of the sun-refined spirit also burned up vigorously as soon as the gigantic sword flew out. A bunch of burning fires flew out from the sun-refined spirit. The color of the burning fires was the same with that of the red sky, making this sweltering desert even uncomfortably hotter. Chao Ji-lan, Panja, Gu Linglong, Xu Yanqing were outstanding talents of the new generation of the Endless Sea. They now looked extremely miserable, staying far away from the sun-refined spirit, wishing that they would have never come here. At the farther place, other warriors didn't dare to get closer to the sun-refined spirit. Instead, they stayed in the distance, watching the burning flames engulfing the entire sky and the cruel spiritual vibration diffusing everywhere. They were scared about their wits and didn't dare to take any further steps, although they still wanted to know what was going on over there. However, after a while, they couldn't help but watchfully walk to that area as they were so curious. After only 100 steps, they saw Chao Ji-lan quickly approaching with a serious face. "Run! Now!" Chao Ji-lan's face darkened. She quietly shouted without explaining. She urgently passed these fellows and continued dashing forwards. The three people of Panja, Gu Linglong, Xu Yanqing lagged behind. Until when they saw other warriors, they also shouted out loud, telling them to leave this place immediately and not allowing anyone to stay. The warriors did not know what was happening. However, seeing their leaders that miserable, they hurriedly followed Panja's group, leaving this place as fast as they could without thinking too much about what was happening. Close to the sun-refined spirit, a bunch of burning fires flew out and covered the entire sky like a group of heavy fire clouds collapsing. The red gigantic sword was hovering around in the air, emitting devilish spiritual vibrations. The blinking red eye on the gigantic sword discharged a strange red light. At this moment, the blinking red eye on the gigantic sword seemed to be staring at a direction. Below the gigantic sword, Shiryen's eyes were red while his mind was not clear. He raised his head looking at the 2-meter-long, half-a-meter-wide gigantic sword with wild eyes. The blood vein ring on his finger also turned into a powerful bloody light, which was exactly similar to the red light on the gigantic sword's handle. As soon as the blinding, deadly light exploded and shot out from inside the blood vein ring, the power of the ice-cold flame was confined. The moment when the blood vein ring emitted the dazzling bloody lights, the gigantic sword hovering about in the sky flew towards Shiryan, seeming to either discover a target or be attracted by something. Shiryan's face was confused as he didn't appear to know what had happened. He instinctively lifted up the bloody vein ring on his finger. A strange, beautiful, bloody light emitted from inside the blood vein ring, covering the entire sky as if blood had dyed the sky with its glowing color. At the same time, the negative feelings inside Shiryan's body impetuously rolled into the blood vein ring like surging tides. After having received those negative emotions, the blood vein ring suddenly spread out a powerful spiritual vibration. The red gigantic sword turned into a sparkling light, flying straight to the blood vein ring. In a moment, it disappeared inside the blood vein ring without leaving a trace. Shiryan's unconscious mind suddenly became vigilant. Different negative feelings messing around in his sea of consciousness instantly disappeared. The sun power from the sun-refined spirit continued boiling and torrentially rolling in his heart, making his heart sparkling as if there were thousands of stars twinkling. A halo of burning fires was inflaming. His body was in extreme pain as if the heated flames were burning it. The icy power of the ice-cold flame was like a cold water stream comforting his body, easing off his pain a little bit. In the middle of the desert, although Shiryan was standing at the distance of more than 1,000 meters from the sun-refined spirit, he still could feel that the sun power of the sun-refined spirit was getting more powerful. Turning his head around and looking at the sun-refined spirit from afar, Shiryan could feel that after a short time of the transformation, the scorching sunlight of the sun-refined spirit from the center of the sun was also gradually getting gloomier. The sun power and the sun-refined flames inside the sun-refined spirit were drying up quickly as Shiryan and the earth flame had consumed them a lot. Their strength had drained out more than half just after a short time. The massive outer meteorite discharged the sunlight, which was less dazzling than before. Shiryan knitted the brows as he didn't know what was happening. However, he still vaguely remembered that some people were coming here, that he quickly moved towards them from the sun-refined spirit, seeming to pursue someone. After hesitating a little bit, he released and diffused his soul consciousness to see if there were any great living vibrations. 1, 2, 3. Inside his sea of consciousness, he could easily sense that more than 10 warriors were only 2 miles away from him, running away from this place as fast as they could. Shiryan was surprised and startled a little bit. He didn't know why those people avoided him, nor did he have the intention of chasing them. After thinking for a while, he turned around and ran towards the sun-refined spirit. Why are we running away? After a long while, Gu Linglong suddenly stopped, turning her head looking toward the red sky behind, knitting her eyebrows, speaking. That guy is Shiryan. Do we need to run? Chao Zhilan shook her head and said, Shiryan? We are running away not because of Shiryan, but it is because of the appearance of that gigantic sword. It is the one we are escaping from. That gigantic sword. Gu Linglong didn't seem to understand. Her small face was a little odd. The moment when that gigantic sword appeared, my godswords transmitted a strong warning urging me to leave. Is that gigantic sword dangerous? It's hard to say how dangerous it is. Chao Zhilan said with a serious voice. However, that gigantic sword can easily kill us all. That sword's devilish power alone can crush our souls entirely. Everyone was shocked with their eyes and mouths wide open. That dangerous? Panja quietly clicked his tongue. If so, that gigantic sword is a sacred level secret treasure. At least, it is sacred level. Xu Yanqing also nodded her head. The devilish spirit vibration of that gigantic sword is frightening. From a far distance, I almost lost my consciousness of running away. If I did not have the secret treasure from my master, I would have died there. The eye on the gigantic sword has a fascinating power indeed. It also has a life. The faces of Panja's fellows slightly changed. Xu Yanqing's words made them remember the eye on the gigantic sword. That eye in the sky discharged bloody red lights like a bunch of demons. It made people feel extremely deadly dangerous, scared the future masters of the endless sea out of their wits without daring to fight back. What should we do now? Gu Linglong asked. Yen is certainly over there. We can't come closer to him, nor do we know the gigantic sword belongs to whom. Do you think if there is anybody else in this place? Temporarily, I will use my martial spirit to see if the burning fires are still there or not. When there is no more danger, we can go there. Yen cannot frighten us. If he still survives by that time, he is not our opponent. Chao Ji-lan assured her fellows. Everyone nodded. Many strange lights flared up in Yan's eyes. He walked to the sun-refined spirit with a surprise. How come a gigantic sword appears inside this ring? It is surely a real object. How could the ring hold this evil thing? The ice-cold flames message from the blood vein ring came up. I have taken a look at the structure of this ring. Logically, the place in this ring is not supposed to contain an object. How can it store this peculiar sword? I think this sword's hilt has something related to my ring. Why do you say that? I don't know the reason, I hazily assumed it. The blood vein rings and this sword's auras are very similar. Especially strange bloody symbols on the hilt are very similar to the one on the ring. Maybe the ring and that sword have been created by the same person. Yen soothed the blood vein ring with a strange face. He sent his spirit into the blood vein ring and was able to see an open space inside it. The sword hilt was silently hovering about in this devilish bloody red space without having any auras. The earth-shaking wicked spirit vibration on the gigantic sword had disappeared without leaving any traces. Relaxing his mind, Yen tried to sense the vibrating power of the sword's hilt, but got nothing. He couldn't find anything on the sword no matter how hard he tried to connect with it. If he hadn't seen the strange power of the sword, he would have had felt it was just an ordinary sword, and nothing could be miraculous. It was hard to either connect with the gigantic sword or sense any spirit vibration. This gigantic sword seemed to get stuck in the blood vein ring and thus withdrew all dazzling lights. It turned from a god sword to an ordinary sword, losing its earth-shaking strength and power. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A strange squeak came up from inside the sun-refined spirit. Yen suddenly stopped, observing the sun-refined spirit from 10 meters away, feeling the sun power inside the sun-refined spirit. The sun powers massively emitted from inside the sun-refined spirit, absorbing into his body and then running to his heart. It was unknown why and how his body seemed to gradually adapt to the scorching sun powers after that earth-shaking transformation. When the sun powers poured into his body no longer generated the sun-refined flames nor the burning fires that made his body burn up. It seemed that his body had been transformed to adapt with the sun-refined flames and get along well with the star martial spirit. Chapter 237, Gigantic Stone Castle, _ Just like that, Yen stood not far from the sun-refined spirit. He could feel the massive sun-refined flames of the sun-refined spirit continually pouring into his heart. There was the star martial spirit of the star god from the three gods sect inside his heart. At first, the star martial spirit could only absorb the star power, not the sunlight. However, when facing the sun-refined spirit this time, as soon as the sun power went into his body, the star martial spirit had developed its effects, also absorbing the sun power. What was the reason? Yen knew it was not as simple as the ice-cold flame had explained. It was not because that the sun was also a star itself so it could just absorb the sun power that way. If this were true, the three gods sect would not separate the sun martial spirit and the star martial spirit. The sun martial spirit and the star martial spirit should have its differences, could not be identical. If it's so, how could the star martial spirit absorb the sun power? Yen knitted his eyebrows. Many thoughts flared up in his mind. He seemed to understand something. Peculiar forces started spreading out from his meridians. When lightning zoomed over him, Yen suddenly understood the situation. During this time, his heart was absorbing a lot of the mysterious energy. It could stimulate the transformations of the immortal martial spirit and the petrification martial spirit. Should it also make a useful change for the star martial spirit, helping it reach this miraculous level? It should be so. Yan nodded his head affirmatively. Swoosh! The earth flame was absorbing the scorching power of the sun-refined flames inside the sun-refined spirit. A bunch of the sun-refined flames like fire serpents disappeared into the burning fire halo of the earth flame, becoming a part of the earth flame's power, causing a marvelous transformation of the earth flame's burning power. From 10 meters away, Yan was still motionless. The star martial spirit in his body, on the contrary, was still absorbing the sun power of the sun-refined spirit, contesting the power from the sun-refined spirit with the earth flame. Being consumed by the two powers, the dazzling hot sunlight started relenting gradually. Dazzling lights of the blazing red outer meteorite were disappearing little by little. The entire oppressively hot desert with the decreasing power in the sun-refined spirits became cooler. Do you feel that it is getting cooler? Yeah, the temperature in the desert seems to be decreasing. It's getting very comfortable now. It looks like something is happening here. I don't know if this can help us find the way out. Who knows? I don't want to stay in this devilish place any longer. Gosh, where's the end of the road if we keep on walking like this? Don't talk rubbish. We came to the chasm battlefield to kill the Yang family. We have not seen anyone of the Yang family yet. Even if we find a way out, don't you feel ashamed if returning without completing your mission? The warriors from different forces in the Endless Sea were gathering into groups of 3 or 5, discussing something. Chao Zilan sat alone with her knitted eyebrows. Her enchanting eyes beamed out a ray of light. After silently releasing the spirit god martial spirit, Chao Zilan started to observe everywhere and everything, including the tiny transformations of the air in the desert, to understand the weird change of this desert. After a while, Chao Zilan suddenly stood up and said, "We can go over there to see." I've recognized that neither the vigorous burning fires nor the attacking souls that could destroy our spirits exist there anymore. Now is a suitable time to go. There should not be any danger. I'll go. Panja quickly stood up. 1 hour later, the 4 people of Chao Zilan, Chu Yanqing, Gu Linglong, and Panja returned and stopped at the distance of more than 10 meters away from the sun-refined spirit. They watched the sun-refined spirit with strange faces. Where is Yan? Gu Linglong angrily asked. That stupid guy disappeared again. How can we find him? Chao Zilan still kept silent, looking at the sun-refined spirit with a strange face. She felt extremely confused. Is this still the sun-refined spirit? It is just an ordinary meteorite from outer space. The sun-refined spirit from the center of the sun has the purified burning powers of the sun. How come it has become like this? Who could absorb all the sun powers inside the sun-refined spirits in such a short time? Is it Yan? A big question mark appeared in Chao Zilan's head. She was staring at the sun-refined spirits which had become a common meteorite. She did not say anything for a while. For the first time, she was concerned about Yan. There were so many secrets about Yan that she could not capture. Her spirit god martial spirit could easily see through people's minds, sensing all kinds of wonderful martial spirits or the opponent's potential tricks. Presently, she failed in discovering Yan's secrets, and it made her anxious and worried. She was not used to letting anyone slip out of her sense control. She greatly hated this feeling of incompetence. Panja and Chu Yanqing also knew a little about the sun-refined spirit's legend. They were bewildered while looking at the sun-refined spirit which had turned into an ordinary stone. They didn't know what to say momentarily. A long time after that, I think Yan has left. What we have to do now is identifying his direction. Chao Zilan took a deep breath and released her spirit god martial spirit to sense around. After a while, she suddenly pointed in one direction. There seemed to be some movements over there. After a short pause, Chao Zilan slightly exclaimed with a strange face, "Oh, how is it?" Panja asked, "Do you realize that the desert now is not the same as when we have just arrived? You guys can release your spiritual powers now. Isn't it prevented anymore? My spirit god martial spirit can finally cover its usual range. The place over there should exist some ancient formation and defensive formation. I think we can now get out of this place," Chao Zilan calmly said. "Is it for real?" Gu Linglong shouted excitedly. The desert was getting cooler and cooler. The peculiar opposing forces in the desert had seemingly disappeared. That's true. All the changes were because of this meteorite. Xu Yanqing looked at the sun-refined spirit which had become an ordinary meteorite. Because of this sun-refined spirit's transformation, everything in the desert has changed. I've known it already. Chao Zhilan's appealing body was in shock, her eyes brightened. She said in fear, "The entire desert is a devilish formation. The sun-refined spirit is both the power generator and the eye of the formation. When the power of the eye of the formation disappears, the mighty formation is immediately disabled and shows its true color." My God, there is such a significant formation like that? Gu Linglong shouted, covering her mouth. Yes, Chao Zhilan nodded. She contemplated for a while before continuing, "It's not necessary to stay here anymore. I can feel that direction is where the transfer formation has left. We can take that direction." I think Shiryan also followed that way. A moment later, Chao Zhilan and the others discovered an ancient formation in the desert indeed. This ancient formation was very similar to the one which they had used to enter the desert. Without much hesitation, they all stepped in that formation without any hesitation. As soon as the pink light flared up, they instantly disappeared from this desert without a trace. The forest was boundless, the sky and earth aura were incredibly dense. Inside the woods, the fragrance of flowers and fresh air engulfed the entire forest, making people feel refreshed and comfortable. On an ancient tree that pierced through the sky, Shiryan was hiding inside the thick, dense layers of leaves 100 meters up from the ground, looking around. After having followed the transfer formation to come here, in the beginning, Shiryan had thought he already returned to the endless sea, arriving at an island with full of sultry spiritual aura. However, after raising his head looking up to the sky, he knew that he was wrong. He was still in the chasm battlefield. The blue sky was clear, masses of white clouds were hovering around. However, there were none of the three gods of the sun, the moon, and the star. It was impossible to discover whether any star powers were pouring into the star martial spirit or not. The world without the three gods of the sun, the moon, and the star was obviously not the endless sea. This place was still inside of the chasm battlefield, only the environment had changed. Although this place was in the chasm battlefield, the sky and earth auras were extremely dense. It seemed to be different from the description of Yang Mu's warriors. According to Yang Mu's group, the sky and earth auras in the chasm battlefield should be very diluted. It wasn't a suitable place for warriors to cultivate. This place had been the ancient battlefield, and only ancient mummies or explorers lived here. No warrior could be found in this area. From the distance of 100 meters from the ground, Shiryan looked around and discovered there were many vital lives inside the forest. From afar, there seemed to be an imposing giant ancient city. The entire ancient city was made of huge stones. The colored flag was flaunting on top of the wall of the ancient city. He could vaguely see some people inside there. The location of the giant stone ancient city was more than 10 miles away from Shiryan. The ancient city was protected by a mysterious power which prevented Shiryan from using his soul consciousness to peep at it. Looking further, he could see nothing else but the endless forest. His ears could even hear the terrifying roars of some animals. This place was not much different from any other places in the outside world. There were spiritual auras, beasts, and also warriors, but there were no three gods of the sun, the moon, and the star. After observing at the distance of 100 meters high from the ground, Shiryan contemplated for a while before deciding to go to the giant stone ancient city to see if warriors were living there or not. Thump. Shiryan plunged down like a big bird and then steadily landing on the ground. In a moment, a flow of miasmatic power like billions of rope twisted around his body. As soon as he descended, he realized that he was captured and confined without being able to move. Damn pagan! A clear but cold whisper came to his ears from behind. Shiryan wanted to turn his head around to look at the source of the whisper, but realized that he could not do it. He suddenly smelled a fragrance of orchids which sneaked into his mind, making him dizzy and fall unconsciously. Chapter 238, Demonic Sound Clan, _. In the darkness where nothing could be seen, Shiryen gradually woke up. After opening his eyes, he released his soul consciousness to observe around. However, as soon as his soul consciousness flickered, there appeared an extreme pain in the sea of consciousness. This pain outburst so strongly in his sea of consciousness that he almost fainted again. His face slightly changed while he tried to control the pain, hastily holding his breath and retrieving his soul consciousness. After that, the pain disappeared. His eyes flared up in the dark, but he was still unable to see anything. While groping in the dark, he realized that surrounding him was all icy lava rocks. These lava rocks were very hard, robust and rough. He did not know what kind of rocks they were. A formation technique seemed to have been placed in his soul consciousness. If he released the soul consciousness again, that formation technique would instantly spread out, causing him a splitting headache. Putting more effort to look around carefully, he still could not see anything. He then stood up to warm up a little bit. When he tried to urge the forces inside his body, he realized that his profound chi had been confined as well. He could not activate his power no matter how hard he tried. When the profound chi and the sea of consciousness were both in confinement, it was like an ordinary warrior's life was captured without being able to use any force. However, Shiryen was different. Although his profound chi and the sea of consciousness were being confined, he could still use the negative powers inside his meridians, which had gone through a lot of training for a long time. It was just that he did not know how to get out of this place. Because he couldn't use his soul consciousness, and even his spirit was restricted, it was hard for him to communicate with the blood vein ring, nor receive the messages of the ice-cold flame and the earth flame. The stone chamber was pitch black. Shiryen was sitting still, waiting in silence. He knew that the one who had captured him and still let him alive would appear sooner or later. As he didn't know this place, he had to be careful, not urging the negative forces to destroy the stone chamber. He should just wait in silence. From where has Miss ECU by captured him? There have been no human beings in our place for a very long time. It is unknown where that guy came from. Humankind rarely appears in our place. Miss ECU by has gone out and brought that guy back this time, but she just detains him instead of killing him right away. We don't know what she wants. Whatever, bring that guy to Miss ECU by. Shiryen could hear the two miasmatic male voices outside of the stone chamber. Not long after that, a creaking sound reverberated in this airtight stone chamber. The dim light from the outside sneaked in, and two sickly miasmatic guys appeared from there. In the dim light, Shiryen focused and realized that their faces were pale, and their bodies were very skinny. They emitted a faint icy miasmal aura and didn't seem to have a temperature. It was devilish indeed. Stand up, follow us. Our lady wants to see you, one of the two guys coldly said. Shiryen lifted his eyebrows but didn't say anything. He did as he had been told. You should obey us. I am not afraid to teach you some rules. The guy threw a sharp glance at Shiryen and then went ahead to lead. Follow us. Shiryen said nothing, quickly going out of the stone chamber and silently observing around. It was a big and long corridor. Both sides were stone walls where there were many drawings of beasts as well as some luminescent stones to light up the hallway. Those luminescent stones were not bright. They were a little bit dim actually. In that faint glow, Shiryen could not realize what kind of the beasts drawn on the walls. The two guys with the cold miasmatic bodies looked quite good-looking. While they were leading, they often turned their head back, watchfully glancing at Shiryen. As the sea of consciousness was in confinement, Shiryen wasn't able to release his soul consciousness. Thus, he had no idea about those two guys' ability. However, from the miasmatic movements spreading out from their bodies, Shiryen could guess that their level was not high. If his strength recovered, he could easily kill these two guys. However, in the situation where he did not know what was going on, Shiryen did not dare to do anything recklessly. Being capable of avoiding his soul consciousness and effortlessly capturing him, that lady with the clear, cold voice apparently had a profound realm. Facing such a high-class master like that, he would surely have a horrible consequence if he recklessly took any actions. After having followed the two guys through a long corridor, Shiryen entered a huge hall. This large hall had a round shape, several big stone columns situated inside of the hall. Many miasmatic guys and girls were standing, seeming to wait for something or someone. They all had miasmatic aura with a slender body shape and the pale skin as if they rarely exposed themselves under the sunlight. There was a senior man with long, regular breaths, a goatee, and ashy gray pupils inside the great hall. He was sitting alone in the center of the hall. Other guys and girls were all standing at the side. They were obviously his servants and guards. Next to him was an exceptional lady wearing a royal dress. Her eyelashes were picturesque and incredibly beautiful. At this moment, her deep crystal-clear eyes were looking at Serene from a distance. She coldly said, "Father, this is the human being that I have captured." The elder stroked his beard and slightly nodded his head. His two ashy gray eyes looked at Serene neglectfully. Serene stood at one spot, but recognized that a flow of miasmatic aura seeped into his pores, silently moving in his body, seemingly exploring everything inside of his body. "Humankind, where are you from?" After looking at Serene for a while, the old man moderately asked with a voice which was unexpectedly pleasant to hear. "Who are you guys?" Serene asked without replying the man's question. Inside this chasm battlefield, there were no warriors even in the legends. This place was the warriors' battlefield in the ancient time. The sky and earth aura here is extremely diluted. Why do you stay here? Who are you after all? Is this place the chasm battlefield? Sass. The beautiful girl frowned and coldly said, "Answer my father's question. Don't sputter any rubbish." A flow of the sharp spiritual soul like a sword stabbed through Serene's head. The formation technique in Serene's sea of consciousness suddenly spread out as if there were billions of worms nibbling him from the inside, causing him a splitting headache. He nearly couldn't help but scream out loud. Gritting his teeth, Serene displayed the fierceness on his face, but didn't utter a sound, only staring at that woman. "It's okay, ECU bye." The senior man waved his hand signaling ECU bye to stop destroying Serene's sea of consciousness. He curiously looked at Serene and said, "You're not bad. Although being hit by the devouring 1,000 souls of the demonic Sound Clan, you did not groan a word. If I am not wrong, your cultivation base is only at the Earth realm." "Ah? Father, it can't be." The beautiful woman ECU bye couldn't stand by but scream out loud. He had formed the Sea of Consciousness. Only the Nirvana Realm warriors can do it. How come an Earth Realm warrior can also do it? You are right. My cultivation base is only at the Earth Realm. Serene slowly nodded. I have come here from the outside world. I don't belong to the chasm battlefield. Because of some unknown reasons have I arrived here. I was in scorching desert earlier and come here through the transfer formation. Are you truly ranked at the Earth Realm? Her beautiful, lucid eyes astonished, looking at Serene with curiosity. You should have experienced some enlightenment. If not, you are not able to form the Sea of Consciousness at the Earth Realm. Not bad. You are not just an ordinary warrior. The senior man stared at Serene, nodding slowly. He was silent for a while and then said, "You told me you are from the outside world. Have you heard about the demonic Sound Clan?" Serene shook his head. The elder's face looked gloomy. His eyes showed the loneliness. He said, "We left that place a long time ago, so long that the humankind does not even remember the demonic Sound Clan. Such a regret that we cannot leave this place. I want to know how the humankind has turned out. Father, isn't our life in here very good? Why do you still want to go to the outside world?" ECU bye confusingly asked. "You don't understand." The senior man sighed. He did not say anything more. Serene was surprised. After ECU bye had stirred up his sea of consciousness, he was much more obedient. Although he still had some doubts, he did not dare to ask more. "I have some questions, and I hope you answer them honestly. If your answers please me, I can let you go wherever you want. However, if your answers do not satisfy me, your life will be in danger. I will make you completely disappear." The senior man bowed his head before lifting it up and speaking to Serene. At the same time, a flow of strange vibrations suddenly came out from that elder. The formation technique inside Serene's body was deactivated in a blink. His sea of consciousness recovered. His profound chi started to move again. Releasing the soul consciousness, Shuryen silently watched the senior man in front of him and his daughter ECU by. His soul consciousness approached that elder but seemed to be prevented by an invisible power. On the contrary, it wasn't hindered too much when it came closer to ECU by. The Sky Realm. Shuryen displayed terrible fear on his face and almost screamed out after his soul consciousness circled ECU by one round. This woman was still very young, but she was already at the Sky Realm. If her cultivation base was the Sky Realm, what about the senior man? Don't think too much, you will not be able to escape from here, the old man said with an indifferent face. First, tell me how you came here? Before entering the desert, where did you go? Can you go back through the old route? If you can do it, I will not make it hard on you and will spare your life. I can't find the way to go back. Sorry. Although I also want to leave, there is no way indeed. Shuryen shook his head reluctantly. The old man raised his eyebrows and seemed to consider something. However, at this moment, a guy hurriedly came in the hall. After kowtowing, he respectfully said, Great Master, we have just discovered other warriors, but the number is almost 100 this time. Shuryen's pupil instantly shrank. He knew for sure that they were Chao Jilan and her fellow warriors. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.